everybody. It is episode 4 of The Only Playbook. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. We're so excited to be here. I'm Sweetcar. I got Shovit. How are we doing, guys?
We are doing fantastic.
Feeling great.
Did you watch all those games this week?
Oh, man. I watched every single one. I mean, we watched most of them together.
Yeah.
So, but no, anyways, I mean, what a fun week 2, right? A ton of great games on the board. Ton of upsets as well, right?
Ton of injuries as well.
I mean, God, just so much to unpack in a jam-packed week. And again, we appreciate you guys being here. First things first, we have, again, established ourselves on every social media platform that's out there, right? Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify. Am I missing anything else?
I don't think so.
No, yeah, that's about it. And we're the only playbook on every social media except Twitter. We're only playbook. Thank you to everybody that's tuned in, liked, subscribed, followed, engaged back with us, and certainly encourage more of that engagement as we love to be a part of that. So,
and it's not just so much about us, but looking at the data from week 1 and week 2 now, we're actually hitting on a lot of these. What do you call it? Our decisions, our starts and sits. I don't know if you guys checked out our newest TikTok, our first TikTok. We hit on 4 out of those 5, and they weren't obvious things. Like I didn't tell you to start Tom Brady. We said start Chris Carson versus an unproven Titans defense. We said start a rookie quarterback, or sorry, not a rookie quarterback, but a unproven Jalen Hurts, who only has 6 starts under his belt or 5 starts, I forget.
Mm-hmm.
We went 2 defenses. We could have picked any defenses. We picked 2 defenses, and they ended up becoming 2 of the higher scoring defenses this week. So, the social media, we're everywhere, but you want to make sure you find us in all those places, because if you're not, then you're getting information from somewhere else. And looking at the statistics, we're giving you pretty good information. So stay tuned.
Yeah, relative to everywhere else, guys, we want to be unique. We want to make sure that the decisions we make and the reasons why we give those decisions are informative and different than everywhere else, like all the main platforms you can get that information on. So again, appreciate the support. The the TikTok got some love, and again, we hit on 4 of those 5. So it's for you guys, to inform you guys and make you guys get the best education to make the best decisions for your teams, players, whatever. So again, really appreciate the social media support. Let's move right in. First things first, you had talked about a ton of injuries on the board, right? A ton of injuries. A lot of the injuries that we're going to talk about are going to be ones that could possibly impact your fantasy lineup. So I'll have our in-house medical man, Shishot, fill us in.
All right. So first things first, we'll start with Tyrod Taylor. He's officially on the IR, so that resurgence of Tyler.
Poor guy, man.
Right, just moving around teams, getting starting jobs, and not getting starting jobs, not because of his play, but because of injuries. And yeah, he's in the IR minimum, so minimum of 4 weeks. They have a very unproven backup, so who knows what's going to happen to that dumpster fire down there. They were playing pretty well.
Yeah, Tyrod was actually playing well with that team.
Yep.
But it's a hamstring injury, and he likes to run, so that's not going to go along very well.
Yikes.
And next person, we have Trey Sermon and the rest of the gang back there in 49er land. He's got a concussion, so he's probably going to play next week, but we don't know. They got really uptight with this concussion protocol, as they should. So it's pretty close. We got to stay tuned until right before the game to figure this one out. Hastie's, the medical staff has said, quote, a while with ankle. He's out a while with ankle, end quote. And Mitchell, our beloved pickup, he's got a shoulder injury, and he's day-to-day, so he's likely going to play too. So we can say for sure Hastie's not going to be there, but Mitchell and Trey Sermon might be there. And they also picked up Lamar Miller.
Oh.
Actually, they didn't officially pick him up, but he's trying out along with Duke Johnson.
Journeyman.
Wow.
I like it.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. And don't forget Wilson. Wilson.
Yeah.
He's coming back soon. So that backfield's going to be a shit show. Deontay, our beloved Shovitz Deontay, as well as Big Ben. They're both on the injury report this week. Deontay's got this knee issue. We watched that at the end of the game. It was like the final play of the game, and he ended up hurting his knee. It's really
such an unnecessary play. The game was already lost. And
Right.
Yeah. But good news, he avoided serious injury. That's all they've given us so far. And he has a chance to play against the Bengals. So if he's playing, you're putting him there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Andy Dalton. They showed us a really good video of this. We saw his muscle, the gastrocnemius muscle, do a little recoil type of movement. So that typically means he injured it in two areas, right? He could have injured his Achilles, causing that to go up, or he could have injured somewhere in his knee, like a tendon in his knee, which caused it to recoil downwards. So it's hard to say. They're not giving us any information, but it looks like it's not an Achilles tear. So if he's tore something in his knee, might be out for a while. But you know what? This is good news for football fans outside of that injury, because that means
Justin Fields, baby.
All right, Fields taking the field. He did pretty well on his start, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Or not a start, but he did well when he got to play. So that's as far as we got with Andy Dalton. Big Ben, like I mentioned earlier, he's got a pectoral injury. Also, I don't know if it's left or right. Quarterback's got to throw. Pec's used heavily during a throw. So Mason Rudolph might be in line to start if Big Ben can't go. We'll see how that goes.
Oh, Mason Rudolph, your boy, shove it.
Yeah, which isn't an upgrade or a downgrade at this point of the season. So
wow.
It's a coin toss at this point.
Yeah.
This is true.
Which is interesting.
Jarvis Landry on the IR with a knee.
Damn.
So as I told you guys last week, OBJ was pretty much healthy-ish, running routes before the game started. So they might be forced to throw him in there. So we'll see. Keep an eye out for OBJ from your IR spot in your roster. Darrell Henderson, he's got a rib injury. He left the game. We watched him leave the game. But looks like, it's not as bad as we think. He looks like he's in line to play. Ribs injuries aren't that big of a deal, really, unless you're breaking it in multiple areas. Some people play with a little bit of cracked rib. Some people play with bruised ribs. So I think he'll play, but this just means...
That's impressive.
Yeah. But this means Sony Michel will probably get his chance once more. Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper. I don't want to talk too much about Amari Cooper because he gave me nothing this week. But Amari Cooper,
shunned.
apparently he was injured, but he was injured late in the fourth quarter. So I can't even be like, oh, he didn't get his points because he got injured. No, he just did bad. But Amari Cooper, we'll know what's going on with his ribs as well Wednesday. So tomorrow, stay tuned for more injuries. This is coming from the team. They're not giving us much until Wednesday. Derek Carr, he's got an ankle issue. I didn't really think it was affecting him too much.
No.
But they did an MRI, and he has no structural damage, so he's in line to play week 3, barring some random swelling or something along those lines. Carson Wentz, also ankle. I think he sprained both his ankles. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you do that, but he did it. So Eason, he might likely play, or he will start if Wentz can't go versus the Titans. He played well in preseason, but threw a pick on his first pass. That was unfortunate.
Doesn't that double ankle injury seem like such a Carson Wentz thing to have happen?
Yeah, it does. Carson Wentz will probably end his career as a Viking the way things are going.
Oh, yeah.
He's cursed.
So, and then Tua, he's also got a bruised ribs. He also got ribs injuries, a lot of rib problems this week. I don't know what's going on with the padding inside those jerseys. But he may play. You're not... I don't know what to think about this. He may play, but who are you really starting in this offense?
Yeah.
Maybe Waddle. I don't know. But, so just whatever you want to do with that information. Tua he has bruised ribs. They're not cracked or broken like we thought. And then the last one for the day, Nico Collins and Danny Amendola. You're probably like, why are you telling me this? But that's because the Texans just lost number 2 and number 3 wide receivers. So Cook's stock went off the chart. I don't know how good that is because that might mean he's next in line to get injured because he always gets injured. But yeah, because now you have an unproven quarterback. No number 2, no number 3. Where do you go with the ball? You go to Cooks.
And Cooks has already been having really good, nice 2 weeks to start the season, so that could be even more coming his way.
Oh, targets-wise, it will. But healthy-wise, I don't know. But anyways, those are your injuries for this week.
Yeah, and we'll try to keep you guys updated through other social media avenues. Obviously, we'll have another episode drop Friday night or maybe Thursday night this week because of my situation Friday.
Sure.
So stay tuned. But again, as the week progresses, if we get updates, we'll try to update you.
Yeah.
Instagram, Twitter
mainly.
Twitter will be a primary source for injuries and other weekly updates or throughout the week. So obviously, make sure you guys follow. So let's move right along. What we want to do is let's jump right into all the games. We want to recap every game that's on the board. And obviously, along with that, we'll talk about the spread and the over-under. We want to give the betting people, some insight on what covered and what hit. And so first game on the board was a battle of the rookie quarterbacks, right? We had the Pats visiting the Jets. Pats dominated this one, 25-6. Wasn't really a contest. The spread was the Patriots -6, so they covered that. The under came in. The over-under was 43. So the under hit. Pats covered on the road at the Jets. Pats go to 1-1. Jets are 0-2. Obviously, for me, I'll start. The biggest storyline for me was the rookie quarterbacks, right? What were we going to expect? Mac Jones and Zach Wilson. I think the biggest key here is the turnovers, right? Protecting the football. Mac Jones didn't do anything flashy, but he didn't throw a single interception. He did not fumble the ball. Zach Wilson, on the other hand, 4 interceptions, right?
Not looking good. Not a good start to that career.
No. So I think the game really just became about protecting the football. You're not going to win. If you're not going to win the turnover battle, or it's going to be that big of a margin, you're not going to succeed. And the quarterback's the biggest position. And so I think that was key. What did you guys see here?
Yeah, Mac Jones is an accurate quarterback, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he'll do what it takes to get the win. The Jets defense, not so great. And then 4 interceptions with Zach Wilson. How are you going to win a football game like that?
No, you can't.
And so, I mean, the Pats just demolished them.
Yeah, the Pats did the Pats things, right? Passing it around to the running backs. Who's their starting? Damian Harris, right? He looked really good. He looks like a good running back. I feel like relatively surprised just because the Patriots always have like a carousel or a trio or a duo or never the one guy that is like a workhorse. But I don't know. That guy kind of jumps off the page.
I mean, both Damian Harris and James White both score a touchdown. James White gets 6 receptions.
Yep.
I mean, you got to be happy if you got him at PPR.
Recipe for success for the Pats.
Yeah, for sure. The one thing of concern is their wide receiver situation, which still hasn't been completely clear.
Right.
But I do want to say one thing before we go dive deep into these games is if you're a fantasy player and you're freaking out right now because you're 0-2 or you're celebrating because you're 2-0, just keep in mind things don't unravel until the 4th week, okay? You can't predict most of this stuff. You need more data. You need more power of this to the study. To increase the power of the study, you need more sample size. So if you're freaking out over 1 week or 2 weeks, like stop it. That's just laughable at this point, okay? Because things are going to change drastically here. As we mentioned, there's a lot of injuries this week. There's a lot of things that happen. And in a span of 4 weeks, it's not even going to be the same league you're watching. In 4 weeks, there might be, half the team might have different rosters. So just to before we proceed with all this data that you're about to get, just keep in mind not to freak out over your situation right now, because anything can happen until week 4.
And if you're 2-0, sit down and be humble.
Oh
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm humble. I'm sitting down and being humble. But yeah, just and another thing, weeks 1 through 3, you want to buy low on very people that are in your league that think some players are like not intriguing and they haven't started off too hot, but you truly believe in them. Weeks 1 through 3 is when you have to target those players, because after that it's too late. And after week 4, that's when you start selling the players you're worried about, okay? So stop giving away all these superstars I see on all of you guys' leagues all over the internet just because you're, stressed out at the moment.
Yeah, let's not jump to any conclusions. Again, such a small sample size. I mean, I'll be the first to admit, if you listen to the last episode, 95% of the predictions I made about what I thought the game was going to go like was wrong. And that's just because, again, what we saw in week 1 is what we expected to trend into week 2, and a lot of teams literally had reverse performances, right? So again, such a small sample size. We're still trying to gather and gauge the season on these teams, these players. And so, yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head. There's no need to overreact, whether good or bad, whatever side of the coin you sit on. And if you're 1-1, you're just straight chilling, and that's me. So,
Yeah, just real quick, and then we're done with this. Some of the things you need to look for right now, not right now, what week 4 does for you. What week 4 does for you is you start understanding game plans, you start understanding target shares, tendencies where your quarterback looks to throw on certain downs, first down versus third. You start understanding snap counts. You start establishing your number 1 wide receiver. So we can't do any of that right now. Anybody can, like NFL coaches might think they're doing that right now, but they're going to change that by week 4. So that's why I'm telling you, just hit the brakes on certain things.
Anything else?
That's it as far as that goes.
Perfect. Yeah, that's sound fantasy advice. Again, it's too early. That's literally the name of the game.
Summarized.
Yep, it's way too early. So yeah, we were talking about the Pats Jets. Again, Pats take that one home, 25-6. Not really much of a test for them. Defense looks good. Again, like I mentioned, Pats just played Pats football, right? Protect the football, played good defense, ran. Mac Jones made accurate and timely throws, and they took advantage of the 4 turnovers from the Jets.
Yeah. I don't think the Jets had any chance of winning this game at any point.
No, this was one that we had a consensus that we all thought the Pats were going to win and cover, and that was the case.
That was my what's it called?
Yeah, survivor pick, right? That was your
pick.
survivor pick. So yeah, you officially moved to 2-0 on the season.
Yep.
Casual 2-0, staying humble, as he should be. So let's jump right into the next game. The Denver Broncos were visiting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, another rookie quarterback being tested against a pretty good defense, right? Denver comes in, wins this game 23-13. The spread was Denver was favored by 6, so they covered that, and the under came in as the over-under was 45. So 2 unders and 2 road favorites covering in the first 2 games, right? Interesting trends to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater rolling.
Oh yeah.
Nothing but good things to say about the boy again.
Yep.
I feel like we talk about him every single week on this podcast, but he continues to impress. I mean,
special.
Great downfield throws to Sutton. I mean, I just feel like he's not dinking and dunking. He's literally zipping the ball down the field, and that's all anybody ever really criticized him for.
Yeah, I mean, it is easier to do that against the Jaguars, but you know, what I see is the same Teddy Bridgewater I see always, and he's always been consistently. You know, he can play fundamental football, which is so important from the quarterback position, and he's doing just that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he's a viable start for the rest of the season. I think if he's not been picked up yet, then I think Teddy would be a person to start. In terms of the Jags, that offense only had 189 yards. Trevor Lawrence, Urban Meyer, what are you guys doing over there? And Josh Lambo kickers, they misses 2 field goals.
Yeah.
Again,
no part of that team was clicking, basically, is what I'm hearing.
Right.
I don't know if I think they shouldn't click yet. I don't think Urban Meyer and Lawrence should be friends because they're not going to be seeing each other next year. Things are gonna. I don't like the way Urban Meyer's running this shit. He's been the center of attention from day one, just limiting Robinson to carries after being possibly one of the best running backs last year. All kinds of stuff he's doing. And now the Jets have 17 straight losses going back to last year. So this defense, what do you do? How do you fix this defense?
No, I think the Jags are in a major disarray. Uneven performance by Lawrence. He looked better in week 1, obviously. He just was slow on his progressions, made a lot of really bad decisions, and the offense never really got in the flow of things. Credit the Broncos defense. Again, we talk about the Broncos defense. You mentioned it's the Jags. Week 1, they beat who? The Giants? Was it the Giants?
Yeah.
Or it was another team that was not? Yeah, it was okay. Yeah. So, again, their schedule has been favoring them. So, again,
the next
no
game's
reason.
Even still easy.
Who do they play now?
I forget who they play, but I looked into this. Maybe that's why Teddy's been having such a great day. I'm not sure.
Again,
great week.
Everything from the Broncos' perspective, it seems like you need to temper
expectations. Was literally the easiest first 3 games I have seen in a long time.
So the next game of the Broncos is the Jets.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Yep. So another must start for the Broncos defense, probably Teddy Bridgewater, Cortland Sutton.
Yeah,
for sure. Real quick, 2 bright spots out of this game that I noticed. Marvin Jones, he's the only player in the NFL with 9+ receiving touchdowns in each of the last 2 seasons. He's the only player. Can you believe that?
Nobody would guess that.
Right?
That should be a trivia.
And McManus, good old McManus, saving my fantasy leagues here and there everywhere. McManus now joins Jason Elam as the only Denver kicker that's made 2+ field goals in 50+ games. So he's about as reliable as they come.
That's quite a stat.
Yeah, that's clutch. Again, Broncos controlled the game the entire time. The running backs, anything you want to hit on there? It seemed like split carries right down the middle, right?
I think Robinson got a little bit more love this week.
Did he?
Yeah, I think so. Let me. But anyways, yeah.
On the Broncos side.
Oh, the Broncos side.
Yeah.
They didn't make my who's vulturing who list.
So yeah, I think they both literally had 13 carries.
Oh yeah, they did. Okay, so they did make my who's vulturing who list. They're number 1 on the list. What am I doing? But yeah, Javonte had 13 carries for 64 yards. Melvin Gordon had 13 carries for 31 yards. 1 reception for Javonte, 2 receptions for Melvin Gordon with here and there. Nothing. No one stood out that much from the other person.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like they're leaning one way or the other right now. It's like split right down the middle.
As expected. Nobody really, we knew the rookie had some skills, but Melvin Gordon's no Peyton Barber.
Right.
He can run the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, Broncos take that one, move to 2-0. Again, a favorable schedule. Likely going to move to 3-0 next week.
Right. I might just make them my survivor pick next week.
Yeah, seems like a very safe pick. And then the Jags drop to 0-2. Again, what are we doing, Jags? Wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Nothing but up from here, I guess. But let's move right along to the Buffalo Bills. We're coming in 0-1, facing the Miami Dolphins. They came into Miami, and they destroyed the Dolphins, 35-0. Again, this score seems a little bit misleading. frustrating if you're watching the game, just because it was a very like unorthodox, not comfortable 35-0. As weird as that is to say, right? Bills do cover the spread. They were favored 3.5, and the under comes in, which was 48. So again, let's start us off. Well, one of you guys kick it off. Kind of, what did you see from this 35-0 victory?
Yeah, Allen wasn't perfect, but he made the throws when it counted. And that Singletary, he definitely came in, got a touchdown.
Got that long touchdown.
Got the long touchdown, and the defense was stringent. Didn't really let Miami get into the zone, do anything. I know Tua was out, but even while he was in there in the first few drives, he really didn't look good. 26 yards. So the Dolphins just looked like a mess. Couldn't figure out the Bills' offense either. So did not look good.
Yeah, and then Brissett came in, took over, and again, there was no rhythm at all to that offense whatsoever all day. Offensive line really didn't do much protecting them. Defense was outstanding for the Bills, right? Just outstanding. And yeah, like we mentioned, the running backs got involved, which is not something typically that's Buffalo-style offense.
Yeah, he had 13 carries. I don't remember the last time I saw a Buffalo running back with a lead this high. You would expect teams that are winning to run more with their running back, but Buffalo still doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So it was weird to see them come back down to earth like the rest of our teams and just still run the ball. Singletary had 13 carries and a touchdown, 82 yards total. A lot of that was on one play, so that might be a little inflated. But it was entertaining to see them run the ball, because you can't say that for pretty much any other team.
And Zach Moss had 2 touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yep.
And so, yeah, that running back core just kind of took over the game. Again, something we're not accustomed to seeing, but unorthodox way for the Bills to win. Nonetheless, they get the job done. And again, moved to 1-1. Dolphins also dropped to 1-1. And so again, Bills riding some momentum going into that division, which is going to be a really tough one.
Yeah. So this was the Bills' largest shutout since 1992. I probably was running around a bunch of polio and TB during that time. But yeah, so that was their largest shutout since 1992. So they're here to play. That was a really well-played defense by them. And now Buffalo is 11-1 when Josh Allen has 1+ passing touchdown or 1+ rushing touchdown in the first quarter. So if they start off hot, that defense can keep them in the game.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great stat. Yeah, they go up early, and that defense is so stout that they don't give up the lead. So, good game. Bills control that. From start to finish. So moving on, we had an intriguing matchup. The San Francisco 49ers traveled all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast to visit the Philadelphia Eagles.
Marquee matchup.
Yeah, that was our marquee matchup of the week, folks. And so we wanted to highlight this one. I think on paper, I was under the impression there was going to be a ton more scoring in this game than what actually went on. 49ers win this tight one, 17-11, although the game wasn't played very tight. It seemed like 49ers kind of controlled it. I know the Eagles got that late touchdown, but the 49ers do cover the spread, -3, and the under comes in again. I feel like that's been a theme. A lot of unders on the board. Over-under was 49, and that was a total of 28 points scored. Yeah. So the under hits relatively easily. Again, San Francisco defense, I think, was the name of this game for me, is what I saw. They look damn impressive.
Yeah, they did. They did, because, watching the Eagles before that game, they really couldn't be stopped on offense. There was just... You would stop one thing, another thing would open up. Like every step of football, receivers played lights out. The running backs did well. Hurts was running with the ball. He was throwing deep. He was throwing screen passes. They were literally doing everything, and yet San Francisco comes in here and tells them who's boss.
Yeah, and last week we were talking about the matchup with Devontae Smith and Diomodor Lenore. I don't know if I got his name right.
Yeah.
And they definitely, stopped the deep bombs. But as I say this, there was one deep bomb for 91 yards, which was the longest since Michael Vick to Deshaun Jackson.
Wow.
It's also the longest. Don't quote me on this. I'll look it up afterwards. But I believe it's also the longest play without a touchdown since like 19-something that the Eagles have had.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So, yeah, I mean, you don't usually see 91-yard plays that don't score.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Hurts was complete less than 50% of his passes. So,
the San Francisco defense had kind of, figured their offense out, I guess, or just made it difficult for them.
Yeah.
Again, they did have that bomb to Rieger that got called back, right?
Yeah. Was that Rieger or was that somebody else?
No, yeah, it was Rieger. It was Rieger. It was a bomb touchdown down the sidelines, but while running that route towards the very end, Rieger, I guess, had stepped out of bounds, and so they called it back. But yeah, again, controlling the defense. It was really interesting to see kind of the running back core from the 49ers. Again, we had talked a lot about Elijah Mitchell on the show last week. As
he had a touchdown, just got called back.
Yeah, exactly, right. So sometimes stats are misleading. Those are things you need to know. Yes, the volume was there for a starting running back, right? What did he have, 17 carries or something like that?
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily efficient with them, but again, volume in fantasy is very key. And again, he had a touchdown that got called back with penalties. So something to keep in mind. I guess, one thing I wanted to touch on, but I guess we will leave that for later, was I was going to hit on the fact that we don't know where Greg Kittle or George Kittle's gone, excuse me.
Yeah, so 2 games straight with just about three targets and 17 yards or something like that. Not looking so good. I'm not sure what's going on there. Garoppolo just doesn't want to pass it to Kittle.
I think he's running a lot more. Garoppolo's running with the ball, so maybe that last read that Kittle usually saves for him, he's just taking off.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like, there's yards in front of me. I'm about to lose my job, so I got to do whatever it takes to move the ball downfield.
Yeah, I'm not too worried because, like you said, it's just week 2. But I'm looking at that closely, figuring out if Kittle is a viable start.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
this is a perfect example of what I was saying earlier of a buy low candidate within week 1 and week 3. I can guarantee you, people playing fantasy football for a first time, or they've only been playing for a couple of years, if you give them a good enough player, let's say Jamal Williams scored a touchdown yesterday, just because he did that, a lot of people would look at the numbers and they'd be like, oh, Jamal Williams did good 2 weeks in a row. This is probably going to be consistent. I have Kittle over here who's doing nothing. Let me make a trade for these guys. Yeah. So these are the people you have to target.
Yeah, but I think long-term Kittle's going to be okay. He's one of the best tight ends in the league.
Yeah.
And again, the offense is finding ways to win, right? They moved to 2-0, so I don't think they're necessarily concerned about that. If it comes to it, Kittle will get his share and he'll do his Kittle stuff, but if you're looking to trade him, we'll look to talk.
My concern is is it injuries?
No.
Is there something going on? Is he not 100% from his injury?
I don't think it's injuries. I think it's pretty clear they had the lead heavily last game, right?
That's true.
So there's no reason to throw. Yeah. And this game was just a bruiser. They were just hitting each other. So there was really no if they were playing the Chiefs, you're starting Kittle with full confidence. So I think it's just a matter of matchups. I think he's fully healthy because if you look at, I was watching some of the replays. He was running dudes over on blocks. He was pancaking the hell out of everybody.
Yeah, so he's all right.
Yeah, so he's all right.
He'll be good. Long term, he'll be good. But the 49ers do take that. Again, move to 2-0. They have a tough division, so starting out 2-0 early, winning at Philadelphia, hard place to play.
Of note, we did mention Hurts completed half of his passes or whatever, but he still had over 20-plus fantasy points. So players like this, when they show us that even if their team plays this terribly, that they can still produce fantasy points, you got to try to get those players on your team too.
Yeah, those guys are must-starts. Hurts has legs, so no matter what his throwing stats look like, he's still going to run for, almost as many points as a starting running back will.
Yeah.
So,
and one last thing, San Francisco has made the Super Bowl the last 2 times they've started 2-0. So take that how you want, but the stat is there.
Mind-blowing stats. That's awesome. Something to note, probably something 49er fans are excited about and are going to latch on to for a while. Let's move right on to the L.A. Rams. The L.A. Rams traveled over to the Indianapolis Colts. Rams come in, play a tight one, 27-24, come away with the victory. Rams move to 2-0. Colts dropped to 0-2. The spread was 4, so the Colts did actually cover that at +4. And the over came in this game. It was 48 was the over-under, and so they combined for 51. It was a back-and-forth affair. I felt like from the play, the Rams should have been pulling away, but the Colts just kept sticking around, even had a chance at the end.
So this is the game I watched the most of out of the 9 games that started because we were at Buffalo Wild Wings and there's screens everywhere. I was facing this game just pretty much the whole time because I have a lot of stock into this game. I have Stafford, I had JT. So basically, the first 2 drives, or 2 out of the first 3 or whatever, the Colts had the ball inside the Rams 3-yard line one time and 1-yard line one time, and they had first downs in both cases, and they could not end with points. So that tells you everything you need to know about how this game could have went.
Yeah, I have a crazy stat I found on Twitter about this game regarding that. Jonathan Taylor leads the league now with 12 red zone carries, and he has 0 touchdowns.
Yeah. Wow, not gonna cut it.
Yeah. Not gonna cut it, but looks like as long as he gets the volume, I think it'll work out.
Right. It'll regress to the mean, which is great news. He's getting all of the red zone carries. Right.
Yeah. Now on the Rams side though, it was just a Cooper Kupp show.
My boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. 2 touchdowns and 11 targets. Robert Woods did get more targets, 9 targets this week.
Really didn't feel like that.
Yeah, so 5 receptions, 64 yards for Woods. So about 11 points PPR. So you got to be, okay with that. And Cooper Kupp's just overshadowing him at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And Wentz got hurt, right?
Yeah.
We talked about the injuries earlier, but with Wentz out now and the Colts are 0-2, where do they go from here? I mean, again, that seems like the story of Carson Wentz's career is he can't stay healthy. And when he's on the field, again, I don't know, just it seems like the reason he gets hurt is he is extraordinary in terms of talent. I think that he has, which gets him to try to make too much happen. And he's just not executing like those Russell Wilsons and Aaron Rodgers that can make things happen, right? Yeah. But when he gets hit, shit like both ankles, like, I mean, that's not normal, right?
Yeah,
and so
I'm not sure if it was both on one play or what, but I don't know if I've ever heard of a player hitting both ankles.
Right.
In the game.
And Wentz just does a lot of things where he puts his body on the line, tries to do different things, and he just seems like the guy that gets hit more often than gets away from it.
Right.
And
so he did get sacked too many times. Their offensive line has been terrible. Just to help out Wentz on that conversation, but his winning percentage is like 38% when he gets sacked more than 2+ times. So that's not looking good. If things continue like this, I don't care how well the defense is in Indy. I don't care how good Jonathan Taylor is. When your winning percentage is 38%, when you get sacked more than 2 times and you're getting murdered every play, that's not a good time. And then when you're playing against the Rams, who are now 37-0 when leading at halftime. So I'm just wondering what the coaching staff was thinking in the second half coming out of the tunnel. Like, how are they going to win this game?
Yeah, and the other thing is on the Colts side, as far as fantasy goes, Michael Pittman, 8 reception, 123 yards, and Pascal got a touchdown as well.
Yep.
But 12 targets for Pittman, so that's really good too.
Yeah, it looks like Wentz had, or maybe Eason, he came in after, right?
Threw a pick.
Yeah, threw a pick, but I guess both of them liked Pittman because he got a lion's share of the targets and catches and had a great game.
As they should. He's definitely the most skilled receiver out of all those guys there.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, Rams take that one 27-24. Stafford and gang looking good heading into week 3. Colts and Carson Wentzless, kind of a lot of questions and a lot of things to be answered. So stay tuned on those teams. The Las Vegas Raiders were at Chauvet's Pittsburgh Steelers, and Raiders actually take this one 26-17. Raiders cover the 5.5-point spread, and the under comes in. Over-under was 47. And so Raiders moved to 2-0. Steelers dropped to 1-1. Chauvet, what's on your mind regarding this game?
Yeah, this is the game that we took live, or when we were recording, and I took the over on that. You took the under, and that day I'm also in a pick'em league, and I switched to the Raiders because I got a notification saying that Alalu, Devin Bush, and Joe Hayden were not playing. So when you have 4 of our best defensive guys not playing, and Schobert, having to guard the Ruggs in that really deep touchdown, it's not going to work. Schobert looked like a melted sherbet out there. It was
TJ Watt also got hurt.
TJ Watt got hurt,
right?
Yep.
Again, there were a lot of injuries on the Steelers side.
Yeah.
I think that really hindered them.
Yeah, but kudos to Derek Carr. He looked good. He's got 117 passing yards in the last 2 games. So I'm not gonna. I think I sold him short last week. I said it was just the 4th quarter, but Derek Carr is definitely outperforming my expectations for him.
Yeah, he's had 2 good games, right? The 3rd and 4th quarter of last game, I guess, second half, and then into this game. He's looked really, really poised, spreading the ball around, right? Having one guy like Waller, who they've had to kind of be the guy, and now takes pressure off of all the other guys who've now stepped up, right?
Yeah. Like we had just talked about it, how Ruggs was like the 4th option. He had the most targets last week. So it's like, sample size. Again, week 4, we'll find out. We'll find out everything, how that unravels.
Yeah. So, obviously, things to know, Daniel Carlson, former Vikings kicker. There's a reason I bring that up. He was 4 for 4 on field goals this game, casually. 4 for 4. Yeah, just wanted to bring that up.
He was an all-pro, too, wasn't he?
Yeah, no reason at all. But anyways, you mentioned the Carr bomb to Ruggs. Again, accuracy was there. Big Ben was up and down. Again, his plays really, really inconsistent. Sometimes it's concerning, right? I mean, I feel like as a Steelers fan, you have to wonder if down the stretch there's going to be enough plays he can make. I mean, that arm looks toast. I mean, I don't know. I'm saying that as a neutral perspective.
I mean, it's so easy to bash on the quarterback, but our offensive line is so trash. Like, Ben's just not going to have the time to throw and go into his pressure.
Quarterback with a bad offensive line.
Yeah.
You know how many stories I could tell you?
It's a
about how that
recipe for
happens?
disaster.
I mean, it seems like injury or long-term injury that will force him into retirement might be inevitable, and you don't ever want to wish that. And you
Also,
hope somebody like that doesn't go out that way.
Free Chase Claypool.
Dude, I'm
Let
telling
the man
you.
eat.
Seriously.
Let the man eat. He goes deep every play, and he doesn't get the ball anywhere near him someplace.
We just love short passes.
Yeah, I
We
know.
just love.
And Claypool is like, I feel like he has the capability to go up there and moss just about anybody.
Yeah.
He's physically, I feel like, superior to every other receiver that the Steelers have, just athleticism
Yeah,
wise.
last person I can think that looked like that was that one dude. He had like a dash between his name. What was it again?
Oh my gosh.
Smith-Schuster?
No, not that one. That's not.
There's another.
We'll come back to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, I'm with you, man. I have Claypool on stashed on my bench, and I've been waiting for them to just show me that they can feed that man. Because, again, like you said, Trevor, you're right. They love those like 7-yard curls to Juju, 7-yard ins to Juju,
Right.
2-yard drags to Deontay.
Yeah, 2-yard drags to Deontay, screens to Deontay, and then it's like once every 25 plays they overthrow Claypool deep. And I'm
I know.
like, dude, come on.
That was the thing with the last offensive coordinator. I mean, we got rid of him and we brought in Matt Canada. We thought more deep bombs and things. We'll see more of that.
Offensive line,
But the
man.
offensive line can't protect for Big Ben, who can't throw the ball 20 yards down the field.
Right.
So, again, two things.
There's a lot of things.
Two wrongs that don't make a right in this situation. So it's like, where do you go? But again, 1-1, long season, right?
Yeah.
Adjustments can be made.
Najee Harris, though. That's stiff arm, though.
Yes.
That's
Oh,
stiff
yeah.
arm.
Amazing.
Welcome to the NFL, Najee Harris.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who was that? Jonathan Abrams, I think, that
Yeah,
he stiff
it
armed to
was.
the ground?
It was.
Yeah. I mean, man, that dude, so he's the definition of a running back where, you know how we talk about 40 times and stuff in the combine and stuff, and anytime somebody runs a slow 40, you're like, oh, they're going to be
that
too
shit
slow for the
don't
NFL.
matter.
And Najee didn't run a fast 40, right? On paper, he's not fast, but then you look at him on the field, and he's so elusive, so strong, doesn't go down. The first guy will never tackle Najee Harris,
Right.
it seems like. And the dude just kind of knows how to, like, wiggle and shivel and shift, and he just does things. I mean, he makes plays.
He makes plays, got a touchdown. First
Yeah.
touchdown of his
career.
NFL career this week. So that's great to see.
Yeah. Fantasy stuff to note on the other side. Peyton Barber outcarried Kenyon Drake, who, again, was the backup to Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs gets hurt. They signed Peyton Barber, or was he already on the team at that time?
I don't know that information.
Yeah, I want to say, don't quote me on this, that they signed Peyton Barber knowing that they paid Kenyon Drake to be like a third down whatever guy, and then he gets 13 carries, Kenyon Drake gets like 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Kenyon Drake really didn't do anything with those carries. either.
Right, absolutely. The good thing is he caught like 6 passes for 50 yards. So Drake's
Yeah.
still doing Drake things. I just don't understand why you're paying a backup running back
To be a
starter
third
money
down
to be a
specialist.
third down specialist.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they really messed up. Kenyon Drake has been like, he's been good for like 8 games in his whole career. If you really think about it, you know, he sprays you some points here and there, and he'll have like a 30-point game. But I don't think I've ever like been excited to have Kenyon Drake on my team. You know, he's always sharing the load with somebody else. He's always, you know, and there's a lot of fantasy owners that are complaining about Kenyon Drake more than being excited about Kenyon Drake.
100%. I don't want him on the team because I have Josh Jacobs, and it seems like
Right.
they paid him money, so now they're forced to give him playing time. It's not enough for either guy, right? And again, I feel like anybody outside of Drake is more efficient with their carries and touches.
Yeah. John Gruden doing.
John Gruden things.
Yep.
Gruden going Gruden, but at the end of the day, the Raiders are 2-0. So
Yeah.
they look good early on. Vegas getting put on a show, right? Moved to a new spot, party town. Who knows how they're going to come out? Are they going out to casinos and clubs and bars every night? When you live in Vegas, I mean, you're probably pretty tempted. And so the fact that they come out 2-0 is pretty impressive. Win at Pittsburgh, you know, despite all the injuries, playing at Pittsburgh is still difficult.
Yeah.
So good win for the Raiders. Good win for the Raiders. I'm excited for Derek Carr. Let's move on to the Cincinnati Bengals. Still sour from last week. Cincinnati Bengals. We're at the Chicago Bears. Bengals dropped this one 17-20. Bears get their first win on the season. They both moved to 1-1. The spread was the Bears were favored by 2, so they did cover that. Over under. The under came in again. Over under was 45. A lot of unders on the board. I want one of you guys to start us off. What did you dislike
Okay.
about this game?
First of all, the Bengals are who we thought they were.
Freaking
Okay.
Bengals, man.
All right, welcome back down to earth to Joe Burrow, where it's really nice and toasty. Get used to it. But anyways, we mentioned this wide receiver carousel in Cincinnati last week. I don't know if we explained how to start them or when to start them.
We didn't know.
It still stands so far. As of now, it still stands. You would still probably go Higgins, Chase, Boyd. And if you're losing by a lot, you might want to go with Chase, Higgins, Boyd. But Boyd is definitely last on this list just because he's the oldest and he's solely dependent on targets alone. I just wanted to get that out of the way because I know a lot of our listeners are wondering what is going on with that situation. And then, the best thing about this game that I noticed, what needs to be talked about more, is the fact that the Bears defense just finds a way to stay relevant. You know, we last year they probably started being a little bit worse than what we've known them to be as. But 3 takeaways and 4+ sacks. This is the 7th time they've done that since 2018, which is the most in the NFL. And they're undefeated in all those games as somebody that does stuff like that should be. And the Bengals are now 5-19-1 in one possession game since 2018, which is the lowest in NFL. So for me, if the Bears played good defense and knowing these statistics ahead of time, this was, Bengals welcome down to earth where it's nice and toasty.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the interceptions. That was 3 consecutive picks on 3 drives.
Yep.
So, along with that, there was also 4 sacks that, Burrow got handed down to him. So the Bears defense definitely showed up. Their offense, not so much. They only had 206 yards of offense. I don't think Justin Fields did that great.
No, it's because when he left the game, the defense scored and just turned the ball over like so much that like when you score, let's say the other team has a drive of like 8 minutes, okay? And then you cause a turnover, like a pick 6. When your team was supposed to come on the field and start putting up points, you basically start back over with the other team. So they just didn't let their team be on the field, which is what a good defense should do,
Yeah.
So that caused the Bears' offense to not really have much rhythm going into the game, essentially. They couldn't get into the flow of things.
Right, and even when they got the ball, they didn't have to make big plays because they have secure a secure lead. They're just running the ball, running the clock out, doing basic Bears things at that point.
Yeah. No one on their off, like as far as fantasy, you expect something from Montgomery. Nothing there, nothing really. Mooney had 6 receptions for 66 yards. Allen Robinson did get a touchdown, 24 yards there, only 4 targets. So, yeah.
Again, the big thing to note there, Andy Dalton got hurt. Justin Fields came in. We talked about the Andy Dalton injury, so it sounds like Fields is here to stay and start. Uneven performance, but when you're a quarterback, when you're a rookie quarterback, and you know that you're starting your first game before the game, there's so much more preparation that goes into it than expected to stay ready, which in theory, whatever, but you're a rookie, right? So it's never going to be like your first start. Right. So him having to get thrown into the game in the middle of the game unexpectedly, it's just less. It's different. It's a different dynamic. And so let's give Fields a couple of weeks, right? Again, he was slower to get through his progressions. He made a couple of very, very questionable decisions, but you're a rookie. You're expected to do that. And, of course, we also saw his athleticism. The dude has an insane arm. He's very, very accurate, and he can run. He might be top 5 fastest quarterbacks already in the league.
You think the Jets are like, why didn't we take that guy instead right now?
I still think it's too early. And the shitty part about this dude is I think no matter what quarterbacks the Jets take, it's like doomed inevitably. Yeah, it's like destined to doom. And so it's like whether they took Fields, whether somehow Lawrence didn't get taken first, I don't know. I'm still very high on Zach Wilson, so I hope for some reason he can turn this stupid Jets bullshit around. But Fields again. I'm just excited. I hate that it was at the expense of an injury, but I'm excited that we're going to get to see Fields actually knowing he's starting, getting a full week of practice, first team reps, and just kind of going through his pregame rituals and stuff. And so I think we'll see a different Fields next week. I don't know who the Bears play next week. That'll be interesting to look at. But I'm excited to see Justin Fields.
Yeah, he had a fumble, he had an interception, but I think that you're right. A pregame prep is a lot more different than having to go into the game as a rookie. So, I still think that those turnovers will happen, as with any
they're inevitable.
Any rookie quarterback that you see. But the Bears play the Browns next week. The Browns did not look good with Tyrod Taylor as a running, opposing quarterback as a he's a runner. So maybe Justin Fields has a really good game against the Browns this week. So
that'll be something to watch for. Anything else on this game?
Oh, no. Just I know I bashed Joe Burrow a lot today, but he's also the fastest Cincinnati quarterback to ever reach 3,000 yards. So I think they might have found their quarterback of the future. Finally.
Yeah, questionable decisions, but I think we're all still bought in on Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
I think he's a special talent. We know the offensive line has problems like 4 sacks, but also you can't throw 3 interceptions. You just have to be smarter and protect the football.
Offensive line problems.
You just gotta
exactly
get
in line, bro.
Yeah, just forget about this game and move on.
Yeah, exactly. 1-1, both teams looking forward to week 3. The Houston Texans visited the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns were coming off of a really, really gut-wrenching loss to the Chiefs, but the Browns did take this one 31-21 final. The spread was big, so the Texans actually stayed close, covered the spread at 13.5, and this game actually the over came in. Over-under was 49, total score 52 points. So over comes in. Browns take care of this one at home. What's the storyline here? What are you thinking? Trevor, you start.
Yeah, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, the dynamic duo. That was amazing to see. Also, Mayfield was an accurate quarterback. He's 19 for 21 for 213 yards. He did throw a pick, but he came up with a touchdown. So he did all the right moves.
Who's the third string running back for the Browns?
I'm not sure. I have to look at that.
That guy stole the show.
Yeah, he looked good, man. Holy shit, where did that guy come from?
I'm not sure. When you have Kareem Hunt as your backup, you probably never expect anybody else besides Hunt to touch the ball. But did you see that spin move?
Yep, dude, he looked fast.
Dang, that guy was really
electric,
good.
like agile, agility.
Yeah. See you in a couple of years on a different team, buddy.
The Browns may never have to throw the ball again. Honestly, you have 3 running backs now.
Yeah, I must have missed that. I wonder who that guy was.
Yeah, every time we not turn to the other way because Chubb or Hunt had just done their thing. That was when the other guy came in and still did his thing. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, offensive line is really good for the Browns, obviously, right? And the Texans aren't very good. But either way, somebody just comes out of nowhere, especially when you have a backfield that's that crowded with talent and big names, to steal the show like that. That's pretty impressive. The crazy thing to me that we were talking about before the show, I thought was crazy impressive, and then you kind of put me in my place. But Baker Mayfield dislocated his shoulder in this game, right? Middle of the game, popped it back into place, didn't miss a play, and came right back, didn't skip a beat, essentially. And it just reminded me of, the late, great Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, when he dislocated his finger and, went over to Gary Vee, popped it right back in, was like, I'm good. And in my head, I'm thinking, damn, a shoulder? That's got to be way worse than a finger, right? But tell me how I'm so stupid and very wrong.
So I'm not going to do that. But so this injury, there's different ways the shoulder can be dislocated. It can move anteriorly, posteriorly. There's different ways. And when it gets dislocated posteriorly, it's so much more worse. It's like you tear a lot more things. It's harder to get it back in place. You might have to go to the ER and get sedated to put it back in place, whatnot. But a football player, if you get an anterior dislocation, it's so much easier to just put that thing right back in. It's not so much easier. It's still traumatic, but
what's the pain level when it?
It depends. So if it's your first time that happens, you'll be in pain.
Okay.
If it's happened before and it's happening for the next whatever amount of time it's happened, it won't be very painful at all.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's no inflammation. There's nothing new to tear. There's no microfibers you have to tear. So you just kind of put it back in place.
Wow.
Gotcha.
Just pop, lock, and bomb it.
Pop, lock, and bomb?
Pop, lock, and bomb.
Pop, lock, and handoff, more like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, again, regardless, just seeing that, pretty impressive. You expect a guy to at least miss a play, but the fact that he didn't miss a play.
Yeah, same thing. I think it's the same thing Matthew Stafford did a couple of years ago. It's the longest NFL Films one-play video of all time. It's a play in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left. They recorded Matthew Stafford through the whole process. I don't know if he got sacked or he threw the ball and got hit, but he dislocated his shoulder. He walked to the sideline. It's all recorded, by the way. You can watch this anywhere you want on YouTube. He's talking to the medical guy. He's like, hey, put it back in, because the time's running. Yeah. So he's and then the guy puts it back in. He runs back in there, throws a touchdown pass on the next very play, and wins the game.
Wow.
Damn.
That's sick.
Hey, shout out to Deal, by the way, biggest Lions fan I know. We'll talk about this game a little bit later, but his son, Jabril Malik, watched his first Lions game on Monday Night Football. He was all cute and shit with his little Jabril jersey.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that was pretty cool. Shout out to Deal. I'm sorry, the NFC North is just such a poverty division besides the Packers, but we'll get ours, bro. We will get ours.
That's hilarious. So the Browns take this one 31-21. A couple things to note. Again, Tyrod also got hurt. Tyrod left the game. They brought in Mills, looked horrible. Just puts that franchise even a further step back than the bright spot that Tyrod Taylor already was earlier this year. Chubb, all-around great game. Again, Kareem Hunt got surprisingly a little bit more carries, but was way less efficient with them. So Chubb's better. But those are only other things that kind of stood out to me. But again, Browns take care of business. Move to 1-1. Both teams are 1-1. And let's get into the other game here. The New Orleans Saints visited the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers were coming off a 1-0 victory. Saints also 1-0 after demolishing the Bears week 1, right? A lot of momentum. Jameis Winston, 5 touchdowns. MVP talks already. First week overreactions. Boy, did they get brought back down to earth, right? Or
who's doing MVP talks?
Are the Panthers for real, or are the Saints? Did the Saints just have a bad game? Because the Panthers take this one 26-7 final, right? Not expected at all. The Panthers cover the spread +3. The under comes in again. Over under was 45. The storyline isn't just a typical Panthers Christian McCaffrey, right? There's more to this. What's the word on this Panthers defense?
I mean, they were ranked number 4 last week with a very small sample size, and I think that just got higher, right? They just got better. So I think this defense has like the least amount of famous people, like, you know, big.
They're all young,
guys. Yeah. But they're very good, very stout defense. You know, I looked at more of their offensive firepowers when I was doing my research because I didn't really expect any you know, crazy things from the defense, but. Dude, this defense is here to stay, I feel like. You know? I mean, they've played pretty good football.
Yeah, they have. Didn't they draft a first-round corner, top 10 corner, Jace Horn or whatever, J.C. Horn?
Yeah. They had that one dude's son.
Yeah, Joe Horn's son, right? And I know there were Panthers fans. There were Panthers fans that I know that, you know, Jordan, Jake, I know 2 Panthers fans. That's so weird, Carolina. But both those guys, they were talking about how at that spot, Justin Fields was there, right? And they wanted a quarterback because they weren't sold on Darnold.
Right.
And so when they went corner first, very questionable to the fan base because that meant you were trusting Sam Darnold.
Yes.
Right? And he's proven he's played really well 2 weeks in. The defense looks good. Obviously, he's not the sole credit of that defense, but I think they're just playing a lot better. And man, they made shit so bad for Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, again, that roller coaster that is Jameis Winston. I mean, that free fall was pretty dynamic week 2.
Yeah. So the other name I was thinking on the defensive end of plays was Hassan Riddick.
Yeah.
Hassan Riddick had 1.5 sacks that game, and don't forget about Shaq Thompson. He's an IDP league monster. So you know, this defense has players. They're just not well-known players. So keep an eye out. That makes sense why people kind of overlooked them.
Yeah, 4 sacks and 2 interceptions. That's definitely impressive. Sam Darnold, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns. So looks like you know, not getting Justin Fields so far has pulled off.
Yeah.
You know,
2 weeks in, Sam Darnold looks a lot better than he's ever looked.
Yeah. And the Saints offense looked terrible. That's the team's lowest yards in a game.
Yards?
Yeah, so they only had 128 yards, which is the lowest ever under Sean Payton and ever lowest since 2001.
Wow. Yeah. So Jameis Winston, again, 11 of 22, 111 yards, 2 interceptions. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say we can't end this without not talking about DJ Moore. DJ Moore got his 5th straight touchdown reception versus NFC South opponents since 2020. So basically, anytime he plays NFC South opponents, play him.
Yeah. Moore, another solid week. That's back-to-back solid weeks. I think, again, dating to the end of last year and this year, maybe all of last year, actually, he's turned out to be a very viable fantasy option, reliable number 1 player or number 1 receiver on that team. And, again, it seems like Darnold likes him too.
Yeah, so. It's because he doesn't have to be the number 1. You know, his best other sidekick years ago was Samuel.
Yep.
Right? Now he's got Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson's not... You know, he looks dorky. He looks like Wiz Khalifa on cleats. But the man can run deep. The man probably runs better deep routes than like 90% of players in the NFL. So it helps DJ Moore's case a whole lot.
Yeah. Better than Slayton.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so again, CMC did CMC things. Where was Alvin Kamara? I'll touch on that a little bit more later, actually. But that's a big storyline also to watch. And yeah, so again, the Panthers take this one at home 26-7, moved to 2-0 surprisingly, right? Early season surprise, Carolina Panthers 2-0. Saints dropped to 1-1. And the Vikings visited the Arizona Cardinals. Me and Shishot's Vikings. We had no hope. If you listen to last week's episode, we had no hope. I thought there was gonna be no way the Vikings, played a good game. The recipe, all on paper, seemed like an absolute disaster for us. And wouldn't you know it, the Vikings, in very Vikings fashion, play a fantastic game, one of the best games maybe I've seen from them in 3 years. And, of course, they can't put all the goddamn pieces of the puzzle together to get the W. So I have so much I want to talk about this game. 33-34, Cardinals win by 1 point. Vikings drop to 0-2. Cardinals move to 2-0. The Vikings do cover the spread, 3.5 dogs, and the over comes in, obviously. Over-under is 51. Just start us off, Shishot.
Okay. So we did say we had no hope, but I did mention there's one chance we have at winning this game, and it was for the offensive line to hold the defense because we hyped up that defense. We're like,
Chandler
there's
Jones,
sacks, so many sacks, oh my God, sacks
JJ
after
Watt.
sacks. But they had neither of them had any sacks. We actually played perfect football. I don't remember the last time the Vikings have played this perfectly since forever. I honestly can't go back and think how well Kirk Cousins played, how well Dalvin Cook played, how well our receivers played, how well Danielle Hunter played, how well our linebackers played, our second best linebacker. I can't even blame the cornerbacks they got really bad PFF rankings this week. But that's because you can only hold Kyler Murray for about 4 seconds. And after that, if he's out of the pocket, it's over. Like, he's going to make something out of it. Either he's going to run past your fat linebackers or he's going to throw it downfield to, no cornerback in the history of cornerbacking can handle following a wide receiver for 10 seconds. It's just impossible. It's just not possible. And that's what Kyler Murray exploited. He exploited the hell out of those opportunities. And, if you watch the game, if you watch the clips in independent times, like all disarranged, Kyler Murray did not have that great of a game. But if you look at on paper, 400 plus yards, 5 touchdowns?
4
touchdowns. On like 3 ginormous plays, and then he ran in for a touchdown, right? So they made the most of those broken plays. They just made the most of them, and that's what it took to beat this perfect football we were playing. As frustrating as it is, it's just the way the cookie crumbles, and we just always happen to be on the other end of it.
Yeah, if you have Kyler Murray on your fantasy team, you've got to be just jumping for joy. Like,
if a game like that gave you this many points, like where's
30,
the ceiling?
33 points in this game, just about. Yeah, he's a beast. I mean, he had 2 interceptions, but like no one's talking about that. Yeah, it's 4.
The game. Look at the scoreboard.
It's the predicament of the game. I definitely do want to talk about that because Nick Vigil has been absolutely amazing for the Vikings.
I mentioned one IDP player last week on the podcast, and his name was Nick Vigil. So make sure you go pick him up on your IDP leagues.
Had a pick 6 of Kyler Murray, and it wasn't just like the ball fell into his hands. He fully extended, all hands catch, full speed down the field. Again, not just outside of that play, Nick Vigil has been a way better compliment to Kendricks than I feel like Barr has been his entire career.
Ever.
Yeah, so again, I don't know what the hell we're doing paying Anthony Barr in his contract.
We won't be doing that anymore.
Another story. Obviously, Vikings offense, 10 out of 10. I mean, just listening to 4 episodes we talk about, and you guys know I'm one of the biggest Kirk Cousins critics out there, and that's probably top 3 in my eyes, the best games Kirk Cousins has ever played. The offensive line held up even when they didn't. My one ask of Kirk Cousins has always been just freaking use your legs, to any ability whatsoever. Don't be so stagnant in the pocket. And clearly he showed us this week that he's capable. He was running. He was making those decisions early, and that led to tremendous amount of success. The play action was phenomenal. Dalvin Cook was limping to like 150 yards of total offense.
He was injured twice on that game.
Limping for 150 yards. I mean, we talked about why we didn't even feel like we needed to throw. Hit those holes when Dalvin was running were gaping, gashing holes, right? Huge holes. And so Dalvin had a great game. KJ Osborne emerging into our third receiver, and we really have like kind of a trio of receivers now.
We do.
Kind of scary for opposing defenses. But again, the Vikings defense was actually solid in the second half, right? A lot of the Cardinals points came in the first half, only 10 points in the second half.
Yep.
Put our offense in a position to win the game. Our offense did everything possible to execute the win. And then lo and behold, the freaking story of being a Vikings fan, the never-ending theme, the reoccurring theme, the same thing we've had happen for as long as I can remember, as long as we watch football. We put the onus on the back of the kicker to win us the game. The kicker whose only job is to kick the ball and make it into the field goal post. The kicker who practices, all he does is practice doing that one thing. And the same kicker who made 2 50-plus yarders earlier in the game.
Yeah.
can't.
He also missed an extra point that game.
Yeah, and that was huge. That was the 1 point difference, right? And sometimes extra point misses happen nowadays ever since they pushed it back. So you almost like forgive an extra point miss than you do a field goal. But how in the hell do you miss a 37-yard field goal to win the game? It's almost like any kicker that comes to the Vikings is literally just going to die.
There's only one kicker that has not let me down as a Vikings kicker. Can you name him?
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan Longwell.
Yes. Every other kicker we brought in, you know what Bailey was ranked all time before he came to the Vikings? He was fringe number 1, fringe number 2 after Justin Tucker. And after that, I don't know. I don't even know if he's in the top 10 anymore.
Dan Bailey is the perfect example of somebody who, like you said, was arguably the top, statistically, the top 1 or 2 most accurate kickers in the history of the NFL.
Right.
Comes to the Vikings, and all of a sudden, like...
Yeah, and check this out. So Carlson, the Raiders kicker, right? We got rid of him after a poor season, and the next season he made it to the Pro Bowl. Like, how do you explain this?
Oh, I highlighted that he was 4 for 4 on field goals earlier.
Yeah.
You guys seem very disappointed right now.
It's ridiculous, man. As a neutral person who's watching the game, on paper, the Vikings did everything to win this game. Yeah. And the fact that it's the same shit every single year, that we have to put the reliance on a kicker who wasn't in the league last year. He hasn't been in the league in 3 years. He's still young, right? But there was a lot of talk. I was listening to a lot of sports radio, and again, there's a lot of talk about the time management at the end of that game. If you guys remember, we got to that field goal range with 40 seconds left. We had time to still run a couple of plays and, just try to score a touchdown because we don't want to put the
long-ass
shit
field goal
on the back of the
Dude,
kicker.
This is on Zimmer, man. This is all on Zimmer. Zimmer is on a hot-ass seat right now. Everything from the calls last game to everything to the calls about the kicking situation now.
A guy who literally preaches defense. That is his one thing. He is a defensive guru. Yeah. He doesn't even breathe offense. He lets the offense pretty much do whatever the hell they want. So he's that defensive minded, and you're coming off back-to-back weeks where week 1 you make Joe Burrow look like an early MVP candidate, and week 2 you can't stop anything, right? I know we're not expected to stop Kyler Murray, but for being a defensive-minded head coach, there is very little defense.
Yeah, a little bit just to play devil's advocate here. I think we did the best we could defensively on this game. This is the only way to beat Kyler Murray. He's going to score 30 points, And the thing is, we don't have the personnel back there to sustain this. We knew our cornerbacks were weak. All we have is an old-ass Patrick Peterson. And, and who else got injured? Breland got hurt that game. Our backup got hurt that game. So we lost 2 out of 3 cornerbacks during the game. So there's a lot of reasons why we allowed this many points. But if you just take the cornerback situation out of the equation, we played pretty freaking well. Who sacks Kyler Murray that many times? Danielle Hunter was all over him all game long. We were tipping passes that led to interceptions. We actively hindered his play style, Not many people can say that. Kyler Murray takes advantage of the defense. He had to take what he got when it came to us, and that was broken down plays that he executed on.
Yeah, and again, you're right? This game might not be the best example for the Zimmer case, but for the last 2 games and a full season last year, our offense has been fantastic. Capable of putting...
With a poor offensive line.
Yeah, with a poor offensive line, our offense has been able to put up points with the best of them. And so having a head coach that literally screams, spits, sleeps, breathes defense, being the reason that we lose so many games that we do just doesn't make sense for me. It doesn't sit well for me. And it seems like a lot of these cornerbacks, Zimmer was once, donned the cornerback guru.
Yeah,
we're getting cornerbacks and we're expecting them to play in Zimmer's scheme, and they're all old or suck, right? So you have to adjust to Patrick Peterson as he gets older and figure out his strengths and play that. Not be like, hey, Pat Peterson, you're past your prime. This is my scheme. Come play it.
Yeah, we messed up. Gladney, why didn't Gladney get to play? I don't get it. We just drafted him with a high draft pick. We lost another one because he's a wife beater. We lost him. He's probably never going to play snap in the NFL as he should. But, we put the effort to get cornerbacks. They just don't work out.
And now it's we need to point the finger somewhere, and it's Zimmer. It comes back to Zimmer.
It is an odd year, though. It is an odd year. Historically, since Zimmer's come into the team, we've just destroyed odd years in a good way. Every single year, the last 10 years or so that we've been good, those have all been in odd years. So, historically, sometimes things just have to work this way. The moon has to perfectly light our path.
Yeah. I just want to add Ryan Longwell. That's probably the best name for a kicker I have ever heard.
Yeah.
This guy's name is Longwell, and he was a great kicker.
Destined to be a great kicker.
That's his
He
namesake.
kicked long very well.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's spot on. That's some lightheartedness to me getting super fired up about the goddamn Vikings. So
And the Vikings defense hasn't always been bad.
No.
So we've allowed 27 or more points in 5 straight games for the first time since 2012 to 2013. So we've been able to win games by allowing the other team to not score that many points. But now every team's scoring over 30 points. So what do you do? Your offense is already one of the top offenses in the league. We've already done everything we can offensively. The fingers have to be pointed on the defense.
yeah, defense, and again, it just doesn't sit well with me that we cannot, in this day and age, find a kicker that can just make consistent
Right.
kicks. Like there's enough to go around, and we've had enough woes to where that should be such a top priority for us that we're literally trying out 7
Draft
kickers.
the kicker first
Yeah,
round.
draft
I
a
don't give
kicker,
shit.
sign 3 kickers, have like 4 kickers
Have a
walk
kickoff
on for
party.
the practice squad, and literally like have them compete because
Yeah.
who wants it? Nobody wants it on the Vikings as a kicker. Everybody comes to the Vikings as a kicker and assumes that the expectation is you're going to miss. So like it's like, cool, if I miss, they expected that.
We're one kicker miss away from no kicker ever wanting to be a Viking ever.
We're 1 kicker miss away from literally going for 2 every single freaking time we score.
We're 1 kick away from making I don't know.
Dude, it's just frustration piling on. I know we went long on that segment, obviously,
Yeah.
as Vikings fans, but again, rightfully so, frustration. There's so much to be happy, and so many things we could have talked about this game from a positive light, all got ruined by the kicker.
Yeah.
So, again, that's every day of being a Vikings fan. So, Vikings moved to 0-2. Cardinals are 2-0, riding high. So, again, opposite directions, but it is only 2 weeks in, so let's still just, hopefully stay patient. So let's move right along. The Atlanta Falcons, we talked about them being bottom feeders early on in the season. Played a surprisingly respectable game, I guess, for their standards against the Super Bowl champs, Buccaneers. Buccaneers do end up winning with a pretty lopsided score, 48-25. They moved to 2-0. Falcons are 0-2. Bucs covered that big spread. 12.5 was the spread. They did end up covering it. Over got absolutely destroyed. Over under was 52. Bucs all day. Again, reoccurring theme. Brady goating.
Yeah.
Brady doing goat things. We talked about that carousel, right?
Hi. Is this Antonio Brown? We've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. If you would like to show up and fucking catch a pass, that would be great.
Yeah, man. That's, again, one thing that we've gathered in 2 weeks of a small sample size is Gronkowski's going to eat. Gronkowski's going to get Gronks. It could be a week where Tom Brady just decides, hey, I'm going to run the ball 30 times, but I'm going to make sure in the red zone Gronk gets 2 touchdowns.
It's getting to the point where they're just getting cocky with it. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen like 4 videos over the past 3 days where Gronk is like, yeah, I don't look at film.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
just run past the
circulating
guy.
right now, yeah.
And they're just being big dick energy out the wazoo right now.
Yeah. I mean, he's saying that he's also given his, I guess, how he gets these touchdowns out there. He's like, yeah, I just fake a block and then I just run and then he throws it to me and I'm open. And
I'm so dumb, but I'm so good at what I do. So, it's fine.
Yeah, Brady's 5 touchdowns, 2 to Rob Gronkowski. I think one of them was to Evans.
2 to Evans.
2 to Evans. One to Godwin. Everybody but Antonio Brown got the touchdown. This was a game that I said last week was going to be potentially a trap game, and when that score was 28-25, I was like, I am a freaking guru.
Yep.
I called it, and then you
are a shaman.
I felt like
we
a
were
shaman.
all deeming you worthy at that point.
I
You were
know.
like bowing down.
Yeah.
We're like, you're right. You have to be the ones we've said.
Yeah, bow down. and I was like, it's 28-25, but the defense came in strong for the Buccaneers. 2 pick six
From the same guy.
from the same guy in the final 8 minutes of the game. And I mean, just kind of sealed the deal
Those
there.
8 minutes alone made the Bucs defense a fantastic fantasy start, as you called them last week on
That's
TikTok.
right.
So
That's right.
Don't forget to check out those TikToks.
yeah, you guys are missing out. But yeah, Bucs doing Bucs things, right? Again, we talked about it. Who's going to be the odd man out? The one thing 2 weeks on early on is the one constant remains Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
He gets his, and Gronk seems like a red zone. Just
Yeah.
it almost seems like the Patriots have it so good on offense where every team they play, they can scheme or game plan for the one weakest
You
link
said
on the
Patriots.
defense. Sorry, the Bucs. The Buccaneers. Still got that in my head with Tom Brady. But the Bucs can literally pick and choose what player they want to exploit, and whoever's on the other side of them is just better because the Bucs weapons are insane.
There is a trend here. In the red zone, it's just Gronk,
Yep.
right? Anywhere if they're like, let's say it's a it's just not. Let's say it's not within the 2 minutes of the second quarter or the 2-minute warning of the fourth quarter. If it's not in that time, it's mostly going to be Godwin down the middle. Godwin loves that middle area. No other no other receiver on this team likes to run that way. Mike Evans just strictly runs go routes or like curls, deep curls. He's just a deep guy. Antonio Brown, they give him screen passes or he goes deep. There's really no middle ground there either. So Godwin is that guy that takes care of the middle of the field along with Gronk, but there's a clear pattern here. There's a clear pattern. So the two receivers that don't get the benefit of this pattern is Antonio Brown and Mike Evans. They're going to be pretty much it's matchup based at this point.
Yep, it's who do we want to exploit in what week? And
right.
Again, they have the advantage at so many positions from a receiver standpoint or tight end standpoint that again they can just pick and choose.
Yeah, must be nice.
Yeah,
Dude, honestly, it must be nice.
Everybody's playing checkers, they're playing chess. That's literally what it is. And from a fantasy standpoint, again, it puts people who have Brown and Evans in a tough situation because it's like either it's boom or bust. But hopefully that levels out to some level of consistency. But again, we'll see. But yeah, Bucks take care of business. 2-0. Falcons 0-2. Again, Bucks doing Bucks things. Falcons doing Falcons things.
Real quick, some fun stats here.
Yeah.
So they played Calvin Ridley, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he has 5+ receptions and 50+ receiving yards in 9 straight games, which is the longest active streak in the NFL.
It's impressive.
It sounds like such an easy feat,
Yeah.
but I guess there's a lot of injuries and there's a lot of all kinds of stuff going on. So he's been the most consistent during that span. Also, Godwin has 1+ receiving touchdowns in each of his last 5 games, which is the longest streak of his career because you were talking about how he doesn't get enough touchdowns. So for him, maybe the signs are pointing up. Who knows?
Yeah. I had him last year, and again, he was this level of consistency from catches and yards, but I felt like the end zones were getting vultured from like Evans and stuff, and that's why I didn't draft him this year. But yeah, like you said, maybe he's found that level of consistency in the end zone now. So.
Yeah, and we'll probably get to this in the vulturing, but Patterson.
Yeah,
looks
Patterson
like,
was a big name there. I mean, he had a great game. He's what, their backup running back right now?
Yeah.
Or like
Dude,
pretty
not
much like a
anymore.
half starter? Like
he's basically a what's that guy's name?
Mike Davis?
No, like Jameis Winston's backup.
Oh, Taysom Hill?
He's basically a Taysom Hill without the quarterbacking.
Yeah.
Did you see that catch he made?
Yeah.
That one-handed crazy
like
grab, and he
bringing
scored
it
a
down.
touchdown on that play. He ran one in for a touchdown. I don't even know if you consider him a vulture just because he does so many unique things that Mike Davis does not do.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I would label him a vulture because I have Mike Davis on my fantasy team.
Yeah, I think they just find ways to give him the ball.
Yeah,
and
that's the plan.
And he does well.
That's exactly what he is.
So the coach, right? He's from Tennessee. He's had all these years with Derrick Henry. He's like, let me find the guy that looks size-wise, weight-wise, height-wise, the most like Derrick Henry, and he came across Cordero Patterson, who is pretty much identical to statistics as far as attributes, like physical attributes go. And he's a little bit faster than Derrick Henry too, so maybe he's just in love with Derrick Henry and wants to use more of that type of play calls.
Might be a top pickup this week as far as waiver wire goes.
He's going to be up there. There's also Pollard. Pollard played really well. I will talk about that here in a little bit. Cowboys are coming up soon.
Yeah, but no, Patterson is impressive. Again, it seems like they're making an effort to get him the ball in positions that can benefit him from a fantasy standpoint, closer to the end zone even.
That's kind of like what we used to do with Patterson back in the Vikings days. We made him running back. He scored one of the coolest running back touchdowns I've ever seen when we gave him the ball back there. And a lot of teams kind of shied away from doing that after he left us. And now it looks like, Falcons are trying to do that again.
Yeah. So that maybe Ridley just kind of the couple lone bright spots for the Falcons, but let's move right along. The Tennessee Titans last week dropped the game, so they were 0-1 coming into this Seahawks. Seahawks were 1-0 in Seattle, always a tough place to play, and man, this was a fantastic game, one of the best games on the board. 33-30 in overtime. The Titans actually come out on top on the road. They cover the 6.5-point underdog spread. The over does come in at 54. Two things for me. Russell Wilson still cooks.
Mm-hmm.
Let Russ cook. He's straight cooking. And Derrick Henry absolutely ate.
What a beast.
He absolutely feasted.
Oh, my God.
And, I mean, this game is so weird to me, right? Because the Titans were losing by like double digits almost the entire game. Derrick Henry had 40 carries.
Mm-hmm.
What other team doesn't abandon the run when they're down double digits, and literally just continues to feed their running back. And there's some weird thing, isn't there? It talks about how like Derrick Henry after a certain number of carries just gets exponentially better.
Yep. Fourth quarter.
Yeah.
One of the best running backs ever in fourth quarter.
Yeah. And I'm just like, you're down 2 scores in the fourth quarter and you're doing nothing but still running the ball and successfully.
The man's a monster, and he's playing with like a bunch of people that are like 100 pounds less than him. So all these guys are getting tired throughout the game and everything, and he's just taking advantage of that, just getting stronger.
Yeah, Henry with 3 touchdowns. The guys, he probably just tires out the defense, right?
Yeah.
That's probably what that is.
Honestly,
at the fourth quarter, they're like, I can't tackle this guy anymore.
Nope.
Help! I've fallen. I can't get up. And it's fun stat for the Seahawks. The Seahawks are 52-0 and leading by 15 points at home. Now they're 52-1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, Wilson had a great game, 343 yards and 2 touchdowns, but that field goal in overtime sealed the deal, and Titans win.
Yeah, I mean, again, Tyler Lockett still getting his, still getting the exact same stuff that he's always getting. And if it pans out, because we had talked about how Lockett's the guy that gets you 3 touchdowns and then won't get you anything, but at this rate, the way Wilson's targeting him, and literally seems like he gets by the defense every single freaking game.
Seriously.
Man, this is nuts.
This
is absolutely nuts. The guy is almost guaranteed to catch a bomb and a touchdown every game.
Yeah, he's probably the best wide receiver in football right now, as far as like if you look at his stat sheet.
Yeah.
You know, he's just killing it out there. You could put Tyreek up there, but he laid a dud this week. So, but yeah, 3 things are certain. There's death, there's taxes, and there's Russell Wilson throwing perfect deep bombs, right? He's had the most 125-plus passer rating since being drafted in 2012 in NFL history. He's done that 35 times. So, this game was it was like a perfect game to watch if you're not like a fully invested football fan. This game is what football is all about. Some overtime, some questionable calls. Apparently, Pete Carroll was pointing fingers at the end of this game. There's news out there that he was saying if Russell Wilson would have done something in overtime, we could have won.
Oh, there's a huge play that I don't know if he's referencing that, but this is the weird thing about being a quarterback, right? You do like 99% of things right, and then you do 1% wrong, and you still take the blame. But that big sack in overtime that could have been a safety. I mean, even though that wasn't a safety, they had to punt the ball from the 1-yard line. Right. The Titans returner, I think, took it to like the Seahawks 40 or 45, which meant they only needed 1 play to get in field goal range. Right. And that was the difference maker.
Yeah. So is Pete Carroll saying he should have thrown the ball away at that point?
I'm sure he should have made a better decision than take a sack. That, again, I'd argue was a freaking safety.
It's a safety, yeah.
And so that right there would have already lost the game. So all the cooking that Russell Wilson did, and that's one thing that we talked about last year. I had him in my fantasy league is sometimes there were times where, again, he makes so many amazing plays that you don't care as much, but there are a lot of times where he tries to do too much and would get sacked for like 15, 16-yard losses. And that just puts your offense behind such a big 8-ball, right?
I mean, nobody's perfect, right? Like, there's no perfect quarterback out there. And I think Russell Wilson's pretty damn close to the closest thing to perfect we got.
Yeah.
And, he's human. He'll make mistakes. Nobody's going to just never make a bad call. So, it just happens to be one of these situations where you either got to pick Pete Carroll's side or you got to pick Russell Wilson's side, right?
It could be like Pete Carroll's like, I know Russell Wilson is the best player on this team or one of the best players on this team, but I'm going to give him shit when he fucks up, and I'm going to tell him like it is. So just to make it seem like he's not picking favorites or something like that, maybe Pete Carroll's doing that.
Possibly.
I don't know the guy like that, but I'm just saying.
There's a lot of players I could name where all of that is totally valid.
Yeah.
But when you think of the Seahawks, like Russell Wilson is the Seahawks. Like, how dare you point fingers at the reason why you're even having a job?
Yeah.
There's things like that. I bet it's just like friendly love, trying to make him feel better and all that stuff. But like I said, nobody's perfect. And, I'm pretty sure Russell Wilson at this point probably doesn't even need any coaching. But he does, the reason why he's good is because of the same reason we're blaming him for this possible safety, right?
Yep.
Because a lot of the times he avoids that. I remember a touchdown he threw from the right side of the field to the left side of the field one time. It's just like, it's crazy stuff. And you can't have the good without the bad, and sometimes you just got to deal with the bad.
Yep.
Yeah. I think for this one specifically, where it, like, for somebody that's known to be such a good decision maker and everything, situationally, I personally don't think that was the smartest play. Like, you're running for your life where you're literally almost in the end zone, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, like you said, 99% of the time he'll probably make that play, but that's the reason that they lost. I mean, again, you can say that there's so many other factors and plays that come on in the early on in the game, but as someone, like you said, who is so consistent, so good, and pretty much carries the team.
He's still good. It's one bad
right,
play.
right. No, I'm not saying he's not good, but I'm saying I do put responsibility on somebody who's a leader and the best player on the team to be a little bit more better with decision making in crucial situations. So
that's fair.
Yeah. Again, either way, stats look great, numbers look great. Carson had 2 touchdowns. Julio sighting, he actually had a good game, and a stupid call where he scored a touchdown and they reviewed it and then said he didn't
that was BS.
when there was no evidence that he actually didn't. So the call on the field didn't stand. That was weird. But he looks good, so that's encouraging signs for that offense. And again, the Titans coming back down by 14 in the fourth, solely literally just running the ball with Derrick Henry. That's insanely impressive. So big win for Tennessee on the road.
Didn't Brown have a drop? AJ Brown? I feel like there was a time where he just...
it looked like it was catchable. It was like, I think you're referring to the play where he's like on the right side of the field.
Yeah, I think so.
He was like running out of bounds almost. Like most receivers in the NFL should be able to catch that. I don't know how he didn't catch that, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember that. But yeah, I mean, again, unacceptable. But either way, again, Seahawks drop a game in overtime after losing by double digits, and now they are traveling to visit our Vikings in week 3. So stick around for what happens there. Let's get into the final 3 games left on the board. The Dallas Cowboys visited the San Diego Chargers. Great game, a lot low scoring than we expected it. Cowboys actually pulled this one away on the road, 20-17. Cowboys moved to 1-1. Chargers moved to 1-1 as well. Cowboys cover the spread. They were 3-point dogs, and so they actually cover the +3. And the under comes in. Over-under was sky high. I mean, it was at 55. So I think everybody was expecting scoring, and that actually was not the case. Talk to us about kind of what happened.
Yeah, so it was a messy game for the Cowboys, and not like the last game where it was just airing the ball out. Dak Prescott with 40 attempts. He only had 27 attempts, threw a pick, but 23 for 27. I say that's fairly accurate. This was a show of the running backs, right? Pollard and Zeke both had touchdowns. So I think when it came to it, the Cowboys just played harder and got it done more than the Chargers did.
Dang, this is crazy because we could have been having the same conversation about the Vikings game, right? We could have been like, oh, wow, Kirk Cousins played so well. Dirk, Dalvin Cook played amazing, but instead we're having to. Anyways. Chargers played. So now they've played in the most one-possession games in the NFL. They've played up to like 25 one-possession games since 2019. Like that's not even that far ago. You'd expect one-possession games over a span of like 10 years to be like not 10 years, but like 5 years to be like 25. But in 2 years they played 25. Like how is that? Poor Chargers. They're just like stuck in this rut. And Herbert played pretty good. I know statistically he didn't show out on the stat sheet, but he's now tied Hall of Famer Dan Marino and Patrick Mahomes for the most games with 300-plus passing yards in their first 2 seasons. So things are looking good. You would just expect a lot more from Herbert going against the Cowboys defense, who we mentioned last time were, lackluster in a lot of areas. So what happened there?
Yeah, for me, the Cowboys defense was very impressive. The biggest adjustment that the Cowboys made from week 1 is we talked about Micah Parsons being a rookie and how, week 1 he looked uneven. Jalen Smith, what was he doing all over the field? They moved Micah Parsons to the DeMarcus Ware role where he was actually an edge rusher. And I can't remember what he graded out, but he graded out as one of the top edge rushers for the week. Right?
Nice.
He had an absolutely phenomenal game. And he got to Herbert. He was causing a lot of chaos in the backfield. It seems like, obviously he can figure the other stuff out, but there is one thing that he excelled really, really well at, and it just looked natural to him, and that was that. And I think that factored into, obviously, Herbert, like you mentioned, statistically kind of subpar. As I started him in fantasy, there were throws on the field that he had that he could have made. I remember there was one to Jared Cook who was slanting into the end zone, and he threw it behind him. That would have been a touchdown. But throws that you expect Herbert to make, he wasn't making, especially against the Cowboys defense. And, Trayvon Diggs had a really nice interception on like a pretty decent throw, right, where he made a really good play on that ball. You talked about the running backs, right? That's one thing to note, right?
Yeah.
We'll probably talk more about that maybe a little bit later. But Pollard, kind of a coming out party, looked really, really good, just fresh legs. And I think that helped Zeke become more of the complement and actually allowed Zeke to have a pretty productive game as well. So who knows if that's kind of what they're going to look to do moving forward. Again, Cowboys played a brand of football that last week on this pod, I was like, what's their key to victory against the Chargers? And I was like, they're going to have to put their foot on the gas, all out air. I need Dak to throw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. And that's literally the opposite of what happened.
Right.
Controlled the clock, ran the ball well, played good defense.
Yeah.
Right. And so very impressive victory from the Cowboys from my perspective. obviously mentioning the fact that it wasn't necessarily like Dak throwing for 400 yards and all that being their recipe. But
yeah, I'm glad the Chargers got back to their horse. Eckler had 0 catches last week. They would just use him as a pure running back, and I think somebody had an idea. Oh, wait, the guy that catches better passes than any other running back, let's get him the ball 9 times. And he caught it 9 times for 61 yards. On the ground, he only had 9 carries for 54 yards, but, in a game like this, he's more utilized better as a wide receiver or a pass catcher. Anyway, so they ended up doing that. It worked out in their favor. This game was pretty bang. But yeah, the one star that really shined through all of this was Pollard.
yeah, Pollard. On the other side of the ball, I want to note Keenan Allen obviously doing his stuff with 108 yards. And then the one surprise who we've talked about a little bit, who is now maybe talking his way into a possible starting spot in your fantasy lineups is Mike Williams.
Yeah.
He 2 years ago, he had like 10 touchdowns. And then he's been plagued by injuries ever since. So I think now he's injury free, and it's time to release Mike Williams back out in the field.
As long anytime he's been healthy, it seems like he's produced, right? He's a deep threat. He catches a lot of touchdowns. He's a big frame.
Yeah, he goes for the ball.
Yep,
like he
exactly.
does not shy away. There's a lot of receivers that like see if there's a safety coming after him, so they can get ready for the hit and all that. Mike Williams does not give a shit about any of that. He's gonna go up and he's gonna get the ball.
Yeah, I mean, with 40 targets, there's definitely lots of balls to be thrown around, and so 10 targets for Mike Williams this week. So I mean,
get a quarter of the share of targets.
Yeah,
I mean,
25 is a good number. That's like Justin Jefferson number from last year.
Yep. So Mike Williams, somebody. I mean, I would imagine that he's rostered in most leagues, but there probably are leagues out there that he's not rostered, and if he's not, he should be a for sure pickup.
Yeah. Right.
So no, good game. I think again, impressed for the Cowboys. I know I give them shit a lot, but impressive victory nonetheless. The Kansas City Chiefs visited the Baltimore Ravens. This was our Sunday night football game. Holy shit, this was an amazing game. I mean, man, two teams that, again, on paper are two of the formidable teams in the league, both in the AFC, right? And two quarterbacks that, are on the same kind of trajectory, have a lot of, whether they want it or not, rivalry in a sense, right? And so I know they have a lot to play for, and I know Lamar has a lot to prove with Mahomes, being more of a proven quarterback from both sides of the coin. But the Ravens actually win this. 36-35 is the final. Ravens moved to 1-1. Chiefs dropped to 1-1. Ravens covered the spread. They were 3.5-point dogs, and the over got absolutely annihilated. It was 54, and there were 71 total points put on the board. So there's so much to unpack here. I know fantasy-wise, just game-wise, Lamar, comeback-wise, one of you guys start us off.
Yeah, so I had the unfortunate event of playing against Travis Kelce this week, and all of the game I was like, oh, Travis Kelce's just doing random things. He's getting these slants, 20 yards. I can live with that. That will be normal. But then he goes and gets that, what is it, like 48-yarder, just, going left and right, like maneuvering every single defense and getting that touchdown. I was shocked.
Shitty tackling.
Oh, yeah, terrible tackling. But that game... what a game, right?
Yeah.
And I thought the Chiefs had it. I thought the Chiefs were going to take it home. And, Patrick Mahomes throws that interception, changes the game around, and then it was a Lamar Jackson show.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. What more could you want for a football game?
Yeah, I mean, we have all these great quarterbacks in the league. Patrick Mahomes probably number one right now. And he's out here, throwing interceptions. We look at Patrick Mahomes like at this untouchable god that just floats around and makes perfect plays all the time. But he's human, right? Like, he's going to make his errors, and unfortunately it happened to be against his biggest rival. This is his first loss in September since he stepped foot in the NBA. Actually,
NFL.
Or sorry, NFL. I think even at Texas Tech since 2016, he's never lost in September or something like that. But yeah, he surpassed. I think I forgot the name of this guy who he surpassed, but he has the most games with 125 plus passer rating for a QB in their first 50 starts since 1950. So
I'd say that's pretty good.
Yeah, he's playing phenomenal. But these losses, they're gonna happen. It's just a matter of bouncing back. If they take another loss next week, then we got to look at some real questions.
Yeah, I think the biggest I guess turn of events in this game, because again the way this game was scripted. And how we thought about how this game would go would be if the Chiefs score first, the Ravens are literally going to have to play from behind and try to chase and just continue to tie the game, right? And that's how it initially started is literally first series, Lamar throws a pick 6 to Honey Badger, right?
Yeah.
7-0 right at the bat, and you're like, the Chiefs haven't even stepped foot on the field with their offense, and they're up 7-0. This could be a recipe for disaster for the Ravens. And then the Ravens just continue to battle back, right? Tie it up at 7, 14-7 Chiefs, and then they tie it up at 14, and then they go 21-14 Chiefs, and then there's one blunder on a third down play, and they have to settle for a field goal, and then you're like, okay, well, you can't settle for field goals against this Chiefs offense because clearly the Ravens weren't stopping them. And then you go into the half down 17-21 against the Chiefs. You know the Chiefs are going to get the ball. And what do? They literally march down the field, first drive, score 28-17. And that's where in my head, I'm like, okay, this is over.
Yeah.
I'm like, this game's over. It's out of reach. The Chiefs are not going to be stopped. And the Ravens just can't continue to score. And then the very next drive, Lamar throws a bomb to Hollywood Brown, wide open, busted coverage, touchdown, right? It's almost like they got a gift there. But then Mahomes, that's when the Kelsey play happened. Mahomes comes right back and answers with 46 yards to Kelsey. And then at that point, I'm like, the game's over. 35-24.
Yeah, they can't just keep going.
I'm like,
score
they
for
can't.
Score.
They can't do it. The Ravens' offense is not as good. And that's when the Ravens get the ball back. They punt, and I'm like, game over. This game's over. And then Mahomes throws the interception, right? Mahomes throws the interception, and after Mahomes throws the interception, the Ravens go down and score, make it a one-possession game. And then what happens is the Ravens score again because they make the Chiefs punt. Ravens lead, and then the biggest play was the Chiefs had plenty of time to go down the field, kick a field goal. I think everybody and their mom expected that to happen. I'm pretty sure Mahomes even knew he was going to do that. Right. But you put the ball in the hands of the most like unlikely person, the running back of all people, where you barely run the entire game. This offense never runs the ball really, and you put the ball in the hands of the running back, and what does he do? He puts it on the ground.
Bumble.
I mean, that's the stuff that. You know, that again, it's football, right? Stuff like this happens. This is like the one-off scenario. But as a Chiefs fan, you hate that somebody who is not, who is not so important to the offense, not a focal point at all, was the deciding factor.
Like when we did this week one, we fumbled, right?
Yep.
It was Dalvin Cook.
Yep.
It was in his hands.
He was down.
Yeah. But, he's reliable. It makes sense. Like, when he fumbles, I can't get mad. I'm like, bro, you're like God. I'm sorry you fumbled. I still love you. When there's Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's literally proved nothing so far, and you give him the ball, and he fumbles, as Chiefs fans, I'm irate right now. I'm not running the ball once next game.
No. If you're running, you're putting Tyreek Hill in the backfield and giving him the ball. Like, there's there's no reason Mahomes shouldn't have it, Tyreek or Kelsey, right? At that point, like, it's just there's too much on the line for them to literally even run the ball at all.
I see what you're saying. So they're in field goal range, the Baltimore 34, and so you don't give it to CH, you give it to someone else.
Yeah. Again, even a team like the Chiefs, even if they're in a position where they're like, okay, now we need to run the ball 3 times and milk the clock and get their timeouts, I would honestly much rather trust Mahomes dropping back, and he can literally scramble for a couple yards, and he's so accurate to the point where he'll probably complete the pass and it'll be the same as a run, maybe more yards anyways. So like, they're at that level in my eyes because they pass the ball so much that it's just such a crucial time to give the ball to somebody who is not even in the rhythm of the game because he barely touches the ball. And so
which also Patrick Mahomes doesn't really run the ball as much or something. Yeah. Like what? That's only 3 yards. I know we had a bet going, looking at a bet of the over under on 17.5 on the rushing yards.
18.5 or something like that total rushing yards.
Total rushing yards, and the whole game we're like, okay, he's got to get 17 yards, right? One broken up play, and that's 20 yards easy, and only 3 yards. That's all.
And again, he's proven that he's one of those guys that on any given play, it seems like somebody's open and he's going to find them.
Right.
So he never has to run unless situationally the play breaks down, which we didn't get any of those. So unfortunate on that. But again, Ravens pulling out this game at home. Huge victory for them. Probably didn't want to start off the season 0-2 with a lot of question marks already on that team. And again, big loss for the Chiefs, right? Tough loss. Chiefs aren't going to go 17-0. This is a loss that they lose the game by 1. They'll probably end up winning most of the rest of their games anyway. So really no concern on that side. You expect their defense to be bad. They're pretty bad. But that offense is so good that they can win every week.
Yeah.
So no, great game there. And final game on the board, Monday Night Football. The Detroit Lions were at Lambeau visiting Aaron Rodgers and the Relax. Green Bay Packers coming off that dud week 1 against the Saints where Packers had, 3 points total? Aaron Rodgers threw 2 interceptions where he had thrown like 4 all of last season. So what were we going to get from the Packers week 2 at home? I think Schote and I knew pretty well when the Packers are at home playing Detroit that it was going to be an Aaron Rodgers showcase. And that's pretty much exactly what it was. 35-17, take care of their business at home. They moved to 1-1. Lions dropped to 0-2. Packers actually covered their really big spread too. Minus 11.5, they were favored, and they end up covering that. And the over comes in. Over-under was 50. Total points, 52. So pretty close on that one. But Rodgers was absolutely feasting. That pass down the seams in the middle to Tanyan with the
yeah.
linebacker and one of the best passes I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Expect nothing less from Rodgers, but
that was very similar to the pass I think Deshaun Jackson threw a pick where we were like, "There's 3 guys there. Why would
Deshaun Jackson?
I mean, not Deshaun Jackson. Lamar Jackson. Sorry,
okay.
Lamar Jackson threw a pick, and we were like, "There's 3 guys there."
Almost very similar, identical play.
Where Aaron Rodgers decides to make it, but this wasn't just a Rodgers show, right? This was just a AA Ron's.
AA Ron show.
Yeah, dude. Like Aaron Jones. 3 touchdowns and then one rushing touchdown. So I played Kelsey, and I also played against Aaron Jones. Sorry, I'm messing up all kinds of it. Aaron Jones, and I was down by 3 points, thinking maybe there's a slim hope that I would potentially win, and there's no way. There's no way. The Packers played lights out. Although I will say the Lions did put up a fight.
Early on.
For like 45% of the game.
Yeah.
There was a point where there was a penalty called for, I think, intentional grounding, which I don't think that was intentional grounding. He got hit in the hand.
I remember that.
Goff did.
Yep.
Goff got hit in
the
the left side of the field. Goff got hit in the hand, and I mean, what are you supposed to do if you get hit in the hand? And is that really intentional grounding?
The ball was going to go a little farther than that.
Yeah, and so questionable call there, but other than that, Packers.
They just slaughtered them.
Yeah, I remember. For me, there was a turning point where I think there was like a 4th down and 1 or 2, and the Lions decided to go for it. I think it was 1.5 or something.
Did Goff
right?
run it up the middle?
No. What happened was they had the running back lined up next to him, and it seemed like a draw play was going to work perfectly because there was either one linebacker or no linebackers, right? But what they ended up doing was Goff ended up throwing like a quick out route to a receiver out there, and he overthrew him. And in my head, I'm thinking,
terrible play call.
Horrible play call, right? Horrible play call. They had the momentum. They were moving down, and they were keeping up with them till that. And then after that, they never looked back. They never got close. I think it was 17-21 at that time, and then from there on, it's 2 straight for the Packers. So, again, go ahead.
We did see at least some production from their wide receivers this week. Quintez Cephas has come out on top of this little carousel, or the lack of. But, it's been 2 weeks. I think we need to still wait to get further information on this. He's got a touchdown in 3 straight games now, going back to last year. So that's tied for the longest Detroit streak since Hall of Famer Calvin Johnson with 4 in 2013. So that's pretty sad, but also nice at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a name to watch out for because we talked about how we didn't know anybody's name as far as receivers on the Lions because they were a bunch of nobodies. But Hawkinson, again, your boy from day one, again feasting, 66 yards, caught that touchdown
to my own demise.
Yeah. Your fight against him.
I beat him by 1 point, even though Hawkinson did well.
Yeah, Hawkinson had a good game. Goff, numbers were fine, right? I mean, he did throw an interception, but 246 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ran the ball for 46 yards, had that one big run where he kept it on that read option. Running backs kind of doing running back things. Swift, 8 for 37. Jamal Williams, 7 for 25. And then I know Swift caught 4 for 41 and Williams 3 for 12. So, again, they're making an effort to give them the ball outside of just running, so it's encouraging to see. But, again, the Lions just couldn't keep up. Again, Aaron Rodgers against the Lions at home just seems like a recipe for disaster, and it kind of was.
Dude, the Lions have allowed 30-plus points in 8 straight games dating back to last year, and this is the longest streak in franchise history. So they're actually worse than the Lions that we think of when we think of bad Lions.
Wow.
So they're at the peak of their worst defense ever.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know where they go from there. Packers rebound. Again, everybody was supposed to relax, and I'm glad they did because it's 2 weeks in. It's so early, right?
Yeah.
Packers played night and day. One absolute dud and then just kind of destroyed the Detroit Lions. So, again, too soon to really just jump to overreactions. That was actually the last game on the board. Again, insanely exciting slate of games. So much action, so much to unfold. We appreciate you guys sticking through it with us. We have 2 more segments that we want to jump into, 2 of our newer segments. The first segment is we each want to kind of go and highlight a fantasy stud from this week, whether they were on our team, whether we just noticed their performance to be standout, or you just want a reason to talk about them, and our fantasy dud of the week, right? Same thing on the other side where they just really didn't perform up to expectations. I'll start us off. My fantasy stud of the week was my boy Cooper Kupp for the LA Rams. 2 weeks in a row now that Cooper Kupp has kind of solidified himself as the top dog in that receiving core. Obviously, I know Robert Woods is still there and getting his share of targets, but I had pulled up a stat on Twitter regarding Cooper Kupp and his targets that was kind of interesting to me. Week 2, the highest target share Brandon Cooks led with 48% of targets. Marquise Brown was second with 39, and Cooper Kupp was third with 37% of target share in week 2. So Stafford really seems to love his breakfast with Cooper Kupp because they've built some chemistry pretty quickly. And Cooper Kupp put another studly performance on the field with 9 receptions, 163 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 11 targets. So he's doing the damn thing. That's 2 weeks in a row, and he's been absolutely fantastic for me. So he is my fantasy stud of the week, and my fantasy dud of the week is no other than the Saints running back Alvin Kamara. Saints had a very, very lackluster game this week after, such a standout performance last week against the Packers that, when you're struggling as a Saints team, usually, there's one constant or somebody you can kind of rely on and usually go to, and that's Alvin Kamara. And it seems like they weren't able to really get him going whatsoever. I mean, 8 carries the entire game for a guy who's drafted top 3 in fantasy leagues. 8 carries, 5 yards. I mean, that's historically just insanely bad. I mean, he had 4 catches for 25 yards. I know a lot of that kind of gets put on Jameis Winston for not building, rhythm or establishing any rhythm with that offense. But again, when you have such a lackluster offense or things aren't going your way, you would assume you want to feed somebody that's consistent in Alvin Kamara, and he just didn't get the job done. So for a guy who's drafted top 5 at least in every league, that's a really, really dudley performance. So he is my fantasy dud for week 2. So Shovit, you give us your fantasy stud and dud.
Yeah. First of all, shame on you, Alvin Kamara. That's terrible. My studs and duds, I'll go through them quick because I've already kind of gone through them while we're talking about the games. My stud for this week is none other than Kyler Murray, back-to-back 33-plus points games, and just finding ways to score touchdowns. If that means like doing a little 360 and just heaving the ball to the end zone, or if there's less than 30% chance of getting a touchdown and you still get it, he gets the job done. And he's got quick feet, and so 33 points, amazing. Well done, Kyler Murray.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
And then as far as my dud goes, I mentioned this earlier, George Kittle not doing so hot, back-to-back weeks of less than 3 points as far as fantasy points is concerned. But like we said, we're not overreacting. This is just, just give him the duds. I guess the walk of shame, whatever you want to call it, walk of dud. But
walk of dud.
Walk of dud.
Do the game at their own shame.
Yeah, right. As we play their YouTube video. Yeah. And so Kittle's my dud, but looking for him to bounce back next week.
Yeah, 49ers 2-0 despite George Kittle's early, lackluster play.
Yeah.
True.
Well, I mean, he did all the blocking out there. Pancake blocks after pancake blocks.
Wish that got me points.
Goes unnoticed. Goes unnoticed, but that's what it takes to win games. My fantasy stud is Aaron Jones. He has just lost his father. First game after all that happening. He puts up one of the greatest games he's ever played. He even lost his little chain that had his dad's ashes in it. They later found him. So good for him for that. But yeah, just despite all that, just played great football. He even caught a pass from Aaron Rodgers on a little forward shovel pass looking thing, which I was happy for because I had Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, I mean, overall, great football. He just played lights out, ran the ball well, controlled the clock, caught the ball when needed. His backup, though, didn't play too well. I was expecting a little bit better from, Dillon.
AJ Dillon.
Yeah, with the few carries he had, he didn't really do much. But, we'll see some increase in those carries, too. And as far as fantasy dud goes, Antonio Brown, dude. How you going to do this, bro? How you going to do this? But I'm not surprised. This is just part of it. This is why you draft players like this late, and you expect them to put up flex numbers. So, just keep in mind, I know we've emphasized this a whole lot, but this wide receiver carousel is going to continue, and it might be the most powerful wide receiver carousel of this year. So you need to look at matchups. You need to look at, weather if you have to. I don't know. But you need to understand their roles in the game. So for that reason, Antonio Brown, on a game that was fairly close until it wasn't, you should have put up more points than 2.2. You get the fantasy dud.
Boom. That is our first edition of Fantasy Stud and Dud. Quick thing to note on Aaron Jones. Insane game where, as a starting running back, he had 1 rushing touchdown, but 3 receiving touchdowns, right? Yeah. 4 total touchdowns, 3 of them receiving as a starting running back. Wow. So unorthodox stat, but nonetheless gets all the points in an insane week. So let's move on to our final segment, guys. Again, another new segment, where we want to talk about this because it is fantasy related. We want to talk about these running back carousels that we so often mention in our new segment called Who Vultured Who. right? And so Shisho, lead us off with this.
Yeah. Okay. So I noticed, in other fantasy podcasts and other areas, nobody really emphasizes the backup running back versus the starting running back issues. It's kind of not put, it's not taken as like one of the most important things in fantasy. People just kind of add it here and there, but this might be the most important thing in all of fantasy football as far as what it takes to outsmart the next guy. You need to figure out the running back situations for your running backs. So, we have a whole big list here. I'm going to touch a few of them. If you guys want to chime in with any of these, you can. But so some of the ones that got cleared up this week. James Robinson, 11 carries, 47 yards, 3 receptions, 17 yards. Absolutely nothing to show for with all that because they trail quite often. So keep that in mind. His backup last week, who had more carries than him, Carlos Hyde, only had 2 carries with 7 yards and no catches. So they did change. Urban Meyer did end up taking Hyde out of those third down situations that really pissed me off last week. But it's good to see that James Robinson did have Hyde as his vulture, but this week the vulture has flied away. One more. I'm going to talk about one more. Darrell Henderson and Sony Michel. This was a very big situation early on in the year because the Rams were going to have such a dynamic offense. We needed to know who the running back was so we can have him. After New England gave away all those picks, when the Rams gave away all those picks for Sony Michel, we were wondering, why is this guy not playing on the field? Why is this guy not playing on the field? And I don't think today they planned on using him as much as they did, but due to Darrell Henderson's injury, Sony Michel got a lot of time. So much time that Darrell Henderson had 13 carries versus Sony Michel's 10 carries. 53 yards versus 46 yards. A touchdown versus no touchdown. 3 receptions for 29 yards versus no receptions. So as you can see why this is a big deal. Sony Michel is slowly climbing up the depth chart here and there. It looks like they still don't trust Darrell Henderson with a full workload, even though he's played pretty well. So this might be a huge one as far as vultures go. Sony Michel's taking away all these carries from Darrell Henderson. So keep an eye out before your next move. If you have Darrell Henderson, pick up Sony Michel.
Hopefully he's finally learning more of the playbook.
Probably not. Any other ones you guys want to mention here?
No, we had talked about it. Peyton Barber, again, that whole weird stuff going on in Oakland. I think I'm just more privy to it because I have Jacobs and Drake in my fantasy, so I'm extra sensitive about it. But
how about we just mention these without mentioning the statistics? So the Rams, Tyson Williams versus Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray is very much an issue. Zeke versus Pollard. Zeke is now turning out to be the issue here because they need to release Pollard. The man had 13 carries for 109 yards and a touchdown, 3 receptions for 31 yards. Zeke did nothing remotely close to that. Mike Davis versus Cordell Patterson. This is probably one of the most interesting matchups because it has such a dynamic array of receivers / wide receiver. We don't know what's going to happen. You can predict all you want, but if Cordell Patterson breaks one free for 80 yards, Mike Davis might lose his job. Edmonds versus Connor. I think this is very much Edmonds' job to lose. Connor will come in, play the spellback position, take the ease away from Edmonds. Edmonds will be doing a lot of third down stuff. So that's what it's looking like so far. Nick Chubb made the list with Kareem Hunt because Kareem Hunt ended up with more carries. Not sure why. The game wasn't even that far of a win. It was still fairly close, but they ended up running it out with Chubb with Hunt. Both had 1 catch for minimal gain. And we talked about Peyton Barber, Darrell Henderson, Swift versus Williams. Okay, Swift had around the same amount of carries. They both did the same amount of work. So I still don't know who's going to take the lead here. They do like Swift a lot more than Williams, but Williams is such a favorite of the fans, the staff, everybody, even his old team loves him. So I don't think Williams is going away anywhere.
Williams had one of the best interviews I've ever seen recently. Yeah. So check that out where he talks about why the Packers released him. That is one of the funniest shit I've ever seen.
I've been comparing fantasy football in general to ex-girlfriends my whole life. I'm glad somebody else recognizes this.
So my biggest vulture on this is definitely McKissick. Out here taking Gibson's carries, taking Gibson in the goal line on third down situations. You small dude, what are you doing?
Right?
That sucks as a Gibson owner, but
Yeah.
that was such a situational touchdown that you can't really fault him for that.
Sure.
No,
Sure.
he shouldn't even be in the goal line situation. You know,
But it was a hurry up offense where they were running like a 2-minute drill, and obviously McKissick's the catching back, right? So he just happened to be there.
So why is McKissick the catching back?
That's been the
Gibson-
name of his game
Gibson
forever.
was a wide receiver
Yes.
in college. Coming into the league, we talked about this whole CMC Gibson thing that was overhyped back in July, and we clearly see here that they don't. I don't get it. Maybe it was just purely situational. Maybe next situation we won't see McKissick down on passing backs, but I highly doubt it. Just because McKissick has been proven that he's such a solid. He might be the best pass catching back in football. So, try to take the job away from the best pass catching back in football. That also takes like 10 targets a game sometimes.
Mhm.
It's hard to do. It just sucks that Gibson is probably like third best pass catching back in football, and he just can't get those receptions.
Maybe I just
Allegedly.
need to refresh on third down, running backs, because I feel like if you're trying to block if you're trying to pass
Right.
block and you don't want you don't want some
The
protection,
6 foot plus guy,
Right.
Or do you want the 5'8" guy
yeah,
or whatever?
Yeah,
exactly.
Again, it just becomes about is that running back there to be the extra blocker, or is he there to be the guy that goes out and catches the passes? And again, McKissick has never been a workhorse running back, but if there's one thing he does, he comes in games and catches passes.
Yep.
Little vulture, you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But he's made a career out of vulturing at this point, it seems
He
like.
does.
Right.
Yes.
No, I think that was everybody. Did you mention Singletary and Moss?
Singletary and Moss. I really don't think there's really a vulturing situation here. I think Singletary is the man to get the carries. Moss just happened to steal 2 touchdowns from really close up this game, so I'm not too worried. Again, I wouldn't worry about starting either of these guys just because they rarely do this. This might be an outlier, so keep that in mind. And one last thing, since we talked about pretty much everybody already, did we talk about Javonte and Melvin Gordon? We did not, right? Yeah.
No.
So Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon shared the same amount of carries. Javonte outperformed him as far as running the ball. Melvin Gordon outperformed him as far as catching the ball. So it's very well a toss-up. So the Broncos situation and, it's a couple of other situations we mentioned you got to keep a close eye out for versus some of these other situations. Some of them are just running away with the ball.
Yeah, the gap is widening for a lot of these.
Yes,
Whereas,
week 4.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out week 4. All of these, if not most of these, will be answered.
Yeah, at least should get close to getting a more solidified answer with the bigger sample size. So
Mhm.
that's this week's of who vultured who. Again, we're going to keep this going because that's very, very prevalent to fantasy football. There's a lot of times where guys get vultured. I talk about Latavius Murray as being the vulture of the last 3-4 seasons because all he does is get signed by teams as their backup running back and steal touchdowns. So that's literally his game. But appreciate you guys listening, guys. That is all we had for you. Again, such a wild week 2 in football. So much to cover, so much to unpack, so much freaking action. And again, it's only 2 weeks in, guys. We still have 15 more weeks of all this action. We are just getting started. We are the only playbook, the best football podcast out there, allegedly. Opinions are my own. So give us a listen. All social media. Again, we are so excited to be doing this, bringing this to you guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
Are his pecs too big?
Got him.